Start describing people not by their labels, but by three things: their attitude, the way that they treat others, and what makes them uniquely beautiful. The more I started equating other people's identities towards their internal characteristics, the more I began to build a healthier foundation for myself, seeing individuals and myself not for what they do, but who they really are. Regardless of what you do, you always have the opportunity to be the person that you've dreamed. When you choose a positive attitude, treat others with genuine kindness, and appreciate your own unique inner beauty. If you embrace those three things, your life will become more rich with seeing the world through a lens beyond the labels that confine us. Graduation isn't just a celebration of passing classes and balancing work. It's about doing all of those things despite the challenges in between. We have students here who are mothers raising children. We have students who are battling with illness, maybe working multiple jobs, maybe traveled across country or even across seas to be here. You are resilient, and the things that you do will go beyond your occupation because they start with an internal spark based on who you are.
Kelsey O'Connor is a graduate at New York University, and she was speaking there at the university's commencement ceremony. You're listening to The Talking Point. It's 9 after 9 o'clock. A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to the show. My name is Cathy Mohlahlana with you until midday as we lead conversations that move us right here on SAFM. Coming up on the show today, it is a Tuesday, so the program is pretty much set. The agenda is set. We'll start off with the open line, as we always do, your national roundtable. I'll be taking your calls. You're more than welcome, and you are invited, of course, to raise any matter of national, international importance. The number to dial this morning, 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032. You can send your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Coming up on the show today, we are going to talk finance. Sandy van der Zanden in for Brian today, and he's got quite an interesting topic lined up for us. And I think that you should absolutely join in, regardless of whether you have a spouse or not. I think this is just important information, and he's going to be focusing on the importance of both spouses having a financial plan, or both partners. If you're in a household where you have a partner, why it is important that you have financial plans, individual financial plans, but that work towards a shared vision. He's going to be breaking it all down for us in the second hour of the show. It will include estate planning. It will include looking at avoiding financial abuse or even dependency, right? How to prepare for the unthinkable, especially where we're talking death or even divorce, and how to go about really ensuring that you have financially secured yourself. And so some of the things that he will also be focusing on include, lifespan. So women are said to often outlive men and therefore inherit the financial responsibility for the household once the man is gone. And all of that has to be factored in when then we're talking about financial planning, especially where it concerns spouses, partners. Like I said, if you're in a house and you're not the only breadwinner for that household, this is a conversation that I would certainly strongly invite you to be part of. And in the final hour of the show, we're going to be looking at the Free State, and in particular looking at education in that province. Of course, year on year, the Free State province continues to outperform the other provinces in the matric result. We have seen that there is a lot of investment that the province has made together with private partners in education, starting at the foundation level right through to matric, and it's seemingly bearing these very great results for the province. So we'll be in a conversation with the MEC for Education in the Free State and talk about some of the programs that they run that are run on a longer term basis with private partners, and how it's yielding the kind of results that they are able to achieve, and what it is perhaps that other provinces in other parts of the country could perhaps learn from some of their experiences. So that's what's coming up on the show between 9 and midday. Hopefully, it'll be enough to keep you in your seat, keep you locked in to SAFM. We'll start off with the open line, and I see that there's some breaking news coming out of Mbombela this morning. This is where the Mpumalanga executive is being reshuffled, new members being sworn in that province. Not a story that we've been paying particular attention to, but that is unfolding now. A meeting called. It wasn't really clear what this meeting was going to be about, but now I guess there is clarity. So yeah, we'll keep a close eye on that. But I think that one of the conversations that will be important for us to look at this morning will, of course, include what has happened in the Jaden Lee Meek case. You know, this 11-year-old boy from Vleerhof whose mother has now been arrested in relation to his killing. Some of the evidence we understand that police have found include that there was blood found in his bed, there was blood found on his clothes in his flat, in his bedroom where he lived with his mother. She also, at the time that police began their investigation, had refused for them to come into her flat to just do a search of the area. And retrospectively, there's been criticism for why the police actually allowed that to happen, and why they didn't see that as a red flag. And, why didn't it raise alarm bells to also then have her be seen as one of the suspects? And it is a truly, truly sad and an awful story. It's one of those that you sit and watch and you think, oh, cry, the beloved country, because what is it really that would drive a mother to allegedly do what she's being accused of doing to her son, to the point that he dies? And it goes back to the silent abuse and deaths that children in our country often die, the abuse that they have to live with. Some of the research coming out of UCT, the Children's Institute there, shows that 1 in 3 children report some form of maltreatment in the homes that they live in or that they're exposed to in their environment. 1 in 3 children. And because our society doesn't create a platform for the voice of children, this is often silenced, right? So it's not spoken about. And you have many young children then that die with that silent cry for help. And we've got to ask ourselves, did nobody know what had potentially happened? Did nobody see anything wrong? Did nobody hear anything that would have alerted them to the fact that something was wrong? And this is not just on the day that Jaden Lee was found dead, but it's in the weeks, it's in the months, it's in the years before that moment. Because what we know about abuse today is that somebody doesn't kill you. Abusers don't kill you the first time. What the research has proven is that before the day you die, there would have been other signals that show patterns and trends of abuse. And part of the criticism that has been leveled, some have said Jaden Lee was let down by the community and failed by society. At first I looked at it, I thought, well, isn't it a bit unfair? You can't blame all of society for what has happened, but actually you can. Because if we continue to create cultures where we keep to ourselves, and even when we see that there's something wrong, we make it none of our business, then effectively we are allowing for more Jaden Lees to be murdered, to be abused, because they don't have a voice and they are powerless in the face of their abusers, and we say nothing. So it's really, really one of those stories that, I don't know about you, but it has pulled at my heartstrings so deeply. And it's in some ways an invitation to all of us to say, let's not be quiet. When we see something wrong, let's speak up. If a child is always coming to your house and they are hungry and they want food, don't not make it your business to go to their guardians or parents to say, I've noticed that this child is always hungry. Why? Why is this child always hungry? Let's not just say, well, I'll just give the child food and it'll end there. Because what else might that child be going through? So those are just some of my reflections this morning. And perhaps there is a bigger role that we can all come in and play. So I'll take some of your calls on 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. We'll take a quick break. I'm back with your calls.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Well, let me start off in Memel. Is it Memel? Deborah, good morning. All right, it looks like we've just lost Deborah on the line. Where is Memel? I was hoping that he'd be able to tell me that. Oh, it's in the Free State. Okay, I've never been to Memel. In fact, it's my first time hearing of Memel. So we'll see if we can bring Deborah back up on the line. Off to Bizana now. Borders, good morning.
Hello, Sis Cathy.
Yes, sir.
Sis Cathy, 2 hours in the morning talked about the state of the municipalities in our local area. You know what? These municipalities have just become the self-governing territories of the apartheid era. I mean, Pizana, you know what? These municipalities are just governed by the families. Whereupon you get it, two factions of the ANC running parallel. Brothers against each other in these municipalities. It's just another state of really going back to the days of Transkei, Zenda, and Bophuthatswana. And if you dare say something about correcting, hey, they're going to guillotine you. I'm telling you. You know? Come to the Transkei, especially in the Transkei. Families are running these municipalities. No service delivery whatsoever. Nothing.
Borders, when you say families are running the municipalities, these families that have political influence, that have economic influence, give me a little bit more about what it is that you are seeing, because
it's about getting your own family into it, and nothing about us. Ne? It's about them. Ne? You know, two sections, two parallel ANCs at each other's throat. Ne? Yeah, it's bad. These things must just be. I think the best thing is that these municipalities must just be removed.
Okay.
And go back to the strong departmental and those services. Because you get people who are not even educated running these municipalities.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, Borders.
Come and we must just one day call these mayors from the Transkei each, and we need Matigizela, the one at Lusigisi, Tabankulu, yeah, you know what, the mess.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, Borders. Thanks for that contribution. Borders in Bizana. I guess maybe also when he talks about families, is it nepotism? Is it because then if you have people that will employ family members, cousins, relatives, whatever that might be? I didn't quite understand, and I know he tried to explain, but the factions I get, but the families, maybe there's somebody else who has a different interpretation. Dabogo, you're in Memo. Good morning to you.
Yes. How are you, Katie?
I'm doing well, thank you, sir. Go for it.
I'm fine, Katie. I just want to, I heard your question. I'll answer you at the end. Just let me shoot them fast so quickly, Katie. I just want to talk about this thing of Cyril Ramaphosa to suspend Senzo Mchunu. I think it was a correct move for our country. So people, they must be patient because
he didn't
remember
suspend
the phrase
him. He
of
didn't
Mr.
suspend him, Dabogo.
Hello?
He didn't suspend
Mr. Mkhwana
him.
spoke about the politicians who are interfering to the system of policing. So I believe there are many people who will be involved. So I think 6 months is fair enough to give the president a chance to pursue his investigation. So there is no need to criticize the president. I believe that Ramaphosa took a right decision.
Yeah, but he didn't suspend him.
The time frame, I think, is a fair time frame for us.
Dabogo, can you hear me?
Yes, I do hear you.
He didn't suspend him.
Come again?
The president didn't suspend Mchunu. He's not suspended. He's on a leave of absence. There's a difference between.
Was on a leave of absence. Yeah, but he won't interfere to the investigation. Even he's on a leave of absence.
Okay, so what matters most to you is that he doesn't interfere. It's not that he must be seen to experience very harsh sanctioning for the fact that he lied to Parliament.
Yeah, but let's wait and see what is going to happen, the outcome. But another thing, Katie, that I'm worried about, there are people who are marching. Of course, there is nothing wrong to march. But what is important, let's not politicize everything. Let's not politicize everything, because I was watching one of the SABC channels. I think this guy was a police officer before. He was criticizing Ramaphosa and he was involved in Phala. Let's not mix up issues. Let's deal with this issue of Senzo Mchunu. Then we'll start criticizing if the committee didn't do well. But at this point in time, I think that we must be behind the president and give him a chance. Katie.
So there is no need on the allegations that Mkhwanazi has raised, absolutely, investigations to find what is the nature of those relationships, etc., etc. On the issue of whether or not he knew Brown Mokhotsi, Senzo Mchunu lied to Parliament. He said he didn't know him. There's evidence to that effect. And in a statement last week, he confirmed knowing Brown Mokhotsi. So in your view,
I understand,
there should be no sanction. There should be no sanction for the fact that he lied to Parliament.
To the Parliament?
Yes, that's what he did.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying, Katie. You are very relevant in the party. I just want to talk about the allegations that were made by Mr. Mkhwana. Mr. Mkhwana, those allegations must be proven, or proven otherwise. Those allegations are not an absolute truth. I think that will be making a very big mistake.
No, fair enough. But I'm just saying that it's not the only thing that the president needed to look at when it came to Minister Mchunu.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I understand, Katie. I appreciate it. But before, I have just to answer your question. Manuel is next to Newcastle, Katie.
Yeah, I see one of our other listeners has said that it's a small town. What does this listener say? A small town on the edge of the Free State and KZN.
Yeah, you still remember Freire Farm.
Yes.
They are under one municipality.
Oh, okay. It says if you travel to Newcastle via Villas Road, then, one would know
Exactly. And
Memel
it's
well.
also next to Forecast because we're into the interprovincial borders. Forecast is under Mpumalanga Party as well as Newcastle. We're the last town of Free State. Yeah, if you're
Okay.
using R34.
Well,
Yes.
thank you so much. I've learned
Okay,
something
thank
new
you so much
today,
for your time,
Tebogo.
Cathy.
And tell me, does everybody know everyone? Is it that kind of small town? Are you going to be getting calls from your friends today because they heard you on the national radio?
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Tebogo out in Memel giving his contribution there. Let me see. Okay. Let me take one or two voice WhatsApp messages. It'll lead us into headlines. One listener says, "Hi, Cathy. If the mother of the child is found to be guilty, then I'm of the view that it is the Constitution that has failed the child. Does this woman not deserve a death sentence?" That's one view there coming through from one of our listeners. Yeah, look, the Constitution, this child would have had a school that he went to. Did nobody at the school notice anything? Did nobody pick anything up? There must be somebody somewhere that must have seen that not all is well when it concerns this child and whatever may have been happening behind the scenes at home. I'll continue taking your calls on the open line. It's now 9:30. Time for your latest news headlines.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, organisers of the hashtag Hands Off Mkhwanazi March say they reject President Cyril Ramaphosa's establishment of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry to probe corruption allegations in the police. A recent Human Sciences Research Council study has revealed that public trust in the police has significantly declined. And President Donald Trump says he's not done with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. He said this after giving the green light for the new transfer of arms to Ukraine. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
Nelson Mandela once said, "There can be no greater gift than that of giving one's time and energy to helping others without expecting anything in return."
What's your Mandela Day game plan this year? Why not lace up those sneakers and hit the ground running at our annual Mandela Day Walk and Run on July 19th at the DP World Wanderers Stadium, Ilovo. You can walk 5Ks, run 10 and 21Ks, and still have enough energy to have fun. It's a whirlwind of fun and laughter, all for a fantastic cause. Every cent goes to support the excellent work of the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Enter on mandeladay.com or register for the virtual race on fundnation.org/Nelson Mandela. See you there.
This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Good morning, Cathy. According to me, Cathy, I think than to go there yourself and investigate why the child is always hungry or why the child is always like this and that, it's better to go and report it to the authorities, because by mere investigating that, you'll be subjecting the poor child to further abuse by the alleged abuser. I think the best way is to go and report what you see or what you have noticed to the authorities, and then they will take it from there. Thank you, Busi.
This killing of children by women does not bring out the outrage that we see when men are killing these kids. I think we are hypocrites, because this must be condemned with the same vigor and energy that is done when men are doing this, because this trend is growing. There's one in Salana by, and there's a woman who was killing men for insurance, and the list goes on and on and on. But the outrage is not that heavy as it when it's a man. I think we need to be angry with these women as well. We cannot be sympathizing and say, cry the beloved country, while these women are doing this. Thank you.
Good morning, Sis Cathy. This is Mbongo Swandisa. Sis Cathy, there's this show on Moja Love called like Fake Marriages, where South African ladies, they have contract with these most Pakistan or foreign nationals. Then you pay a rent like monthly, then they go to Home Affairs, get married, get certificates so that they can become like South African citizens. Now, when they can't get grant, they threaten this guy to pay more or divorce if they don't pay more. So why is Home Affairs allowing them to divorce, whereas they got married in like fake, they had like fake marriage? They shouldn't like separate them, let them start there and not get these grants, because now it's a job for them.
All right, thanks for those WhatsApp voice notes. Yeah, I think the point there being made by one of the listeners around how you could potentially put the child in a lot more danger in some instances if you approach the parents. You know, I think she's absolutely right, raising a very important issue. So yes, it is better to report it to the authorities, report it to social workers. It's unfortunate that what we see in our society is that none of that happens. So there's no trying to engage the parent, there's no trying to escalate it with the authorities, but that level of responsibility has to come in at some point. The big issue is that we can't continue to not make it our business. Ines, you're on the road in the Western Cape. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for an incredible show. I'm listening. I'm actually on the road from Bloemfontein down to back home to the Western Cape. There's been a couple of callers that have raised some very interesting points. Ma'am, I myself have been a safety parent at several times during my lifespan. And I'm very involved with local organizations and assist in some oversight on things. So I'd like to just pick up a point of a couple of things, like raising it with the authorities, dealing with situations around the child actually needing help and nobody taking the child seriously, but also there's no support for the parent that actually needs assistance as well. So it's an incredibly complex situation, and for us as outstanders, I mean, obviously, you know, there's no two ways about it. The situation is appalling, and this child is no longer with it. But as somebody who myself, I've survived gender-based violence, and I have subsequently gotten very involved with children from that aspect, I know how complex it is. I also know that the institutions that should be protecting these children actually aren't protecting the children, because they say that they will protect the children and that they're there to protect the children, but they don't. They are a lot of them, and some very well-known, I'm not going to mention them online, very well-known organizations that are on national levels are specifically there to get funding in, to get payments made and pay salaries, but they actually don't provide the services that the communities need and that the children desperately need. I have got several cases on point that I can provide where there have been misallegations of abuse towards a child by foster parents or by parents or by other situations where there've been, you know, somebody's been arrogant in a community and has said something where a child has fallen. Then there's been situations where I know personally of one little girl that was neglected by an organization and for 5 years was under their care, and more abuse happened under their care than ever happened out of their care. So, it's a very complex situation, and for us as outsiders within a situation to make comments is very callous almost. And again, I want to reiterate that this child has been murdered and that there should have been checks and balances. But schools are under huge pressures. This little girl that I was talking about that was under care of a national organization in the 5 years, the person who raised the flag was an incredible guidance counselor at a school to say, why wasn't this child at school? What is happening? There was community that was helping the family, but then the organization kept on getting in the way. Even when the child was in, not just the child, but the other siblings were removed from the home, the organization got in the way again with the safety parents, and then got in the way with further solutions. And so it really requires a lot of activism. We speak about human rights, we speak about child's rights, we speak about the policing system, the social development system, but the community organizations. This is a massive, for want of a better term, it is an industry. There are children that are damaged and hurt daily that aren't being cared for, and then there are children that are being abused in the sense of being used as money. So there are distant family members that then take them in, that look after them for the grant that they get, and then they neglect them even further. So it's an incredible complex matter, and I think it's a major thing that SAFM has specifically taken up today in discussing, because it being Madiba Day is just a couple of days ago away, and his heart was for children. And I think that as a nation, we need to catch a wake-up. We need to open our eyes and get more activism, get more legal information and legal people involved. I myself have employed private attorneys to help mothers and private attorneys to help children, out of my own pocket, because the legal system, the legal aid doesn't help the children in the initial stages. They don't help the incorrectly accused mothers, and the organizations that are supposed to be looking out for the children, I have got case on case on case where they have created more abuse, more trauma for the child, for the families, for the foster parents, the safety parents. So there needs to be a whole new revamp. How? I don't know. But there needs to be a very serious amount of specialized individuals that look into how we look after our children in schools and in family and in state-owned and in other national, NPOs, NGOs.
All right.
That's just my 2 cents.
Sure.
Thank you.
Inesh, I think you've said a mouthful. Thank you for calling in and for contributing to the conversation. And she raises there the lack of support that exists with, just for children who are abused and violated, but also the ways in which we need to be rethinking our solutions to the problem because of how complex it is. And that's why one of the things I said is that we have to start creating the platform for us to look at these matters and engage them. There's so many things that Inesh touched on, and all of that speak to the safety of a child. That even then, when it's been identified, when it's been confirmed that this child is vulnerable, what happens next that can improve their situation? And if that doesn't necessarily improve their situation, we're not helping that child. We're continuing to fail that child as a society. So thank you, Inesh, for that very insightful call. Let me go to Iskopo Wiseman. Good morning.
Morning, Katie. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Oh, it's Iskopo. Okay. Thank you for that.
Cathy, I would like to add my 1 cent on our president here. You see, on Sunday, he was meant to address us at 7. We pushed it, I think it's around 20 to 8. When the police commissioner spoke about all the allegations as well as the evidence that he provided, it was Sunday, and everyone was saying the president is coming back. And for what Mr. Ramaphosa did on Sunday, he really proved how much the ANC thinks of the people of this country. You cannot tell me you come back on Tuesday and you're telling people you're going to address them on Sunday for only 10 minutes. It doesn't come up with something concrete to us as citizens of this country to say this is what he says, or he's applauding Tata Mkhwanazi of coming out. As a president, is more like a manager. I know most of the people have said that. You can't tell me that a manager cannot phone and say, with all the proof that you said you've got, do you know anything about the files that were recalled? And he's coming to us late and is addressing the nation for 10 minutes. And you could really tell that the president didn't know what to do. But for us as a citizen of this country, it really goes to show what is happening within the government.
So Wiseman, did you feel undermined and disrespected by the president's briefing?
Yes, we do. I do feel that, right now South Africa is a banana republic, because what Ramaphosa demonstrated on Sunday, it's exactly what is happening within these municipalities that are run by the ANC. People are having scandal after scandal, and then you find the person has been suspended and is getting money for many years. A guy sit at home with the money that they're getting. Hence, I'm saying I find it very, very difficult. The only thing that the president was short of doing was to say Tata Mkhwanazi is suspended because he was scared of people rebelling against that. That's the only thing. Or he's buying time so that they can dig more to find fault with Tata Mkhwanazi or Mr. Mkhwanazi for that matter. You cannot tell me that a guy, I'm giving them 3 to 6 months, and then he appoint his own comrade.
Okay, Wiseman.
It's up until the people of this country can see the ANC for what it is, we will always cry foul, but we are in this mess that we're in because we are putting ourselves as Africans.
All right, let me go to Sammy in Centurion. Sammy, you also have the same reflections. This is more about why you believe the president acted in the way that he did.
Yeah, good morning, Cathy. Cathy, remember one thing. On the basis of, just on the basis that he lied to Parliament, Ramaphosa must just fire him. Their relationship, these people are not hired under Labour Relations Act. So Ramaphosa does not need an investigation in order to fire them. Just on the basis that he lied to Parliament, that's it. That is, he's friends with a person that's going court cases with a questionable character. That on its own is enough to fire Senzo Mtuli. As to placing him on precautionary whatever it is and keep paying him at the same time, it just goes to show that Ramaphosa is just saving his skin. Because what happens is this: if he was to fire Senzo Mtuli, there was going to be he was going to piss off certain people of certain factions within the ANC. That in itself was putting him at risk of being recalled or being a target when it comes to motion of no confidence with those people within the ANC siding with opposition parties. So Ramaphosa did it just to save his own skin, just to save his own political career. He didn't want to be recalled.
Yeah. Look,
his decision has got nothing to do with the country. Remember, this is a man who had said that the ANC unity is far more important than our country. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, look, the reality is, Sammy, when we think about the action that he took against Mgunu, let's say he fired Minister Mkunu, right, on the basis that he lied to Parliament. Then he would have also had to do the same with the Higher Education Minister, Nubuhle Ngabane.
Yes.
Because based off even just the little facts that we have now, she is also being shown to have lied to Parliament about that legal panel that she said had been set up to,
Yes.
make the seat appointments. 4 out of the 6 people on the panel have sent letters to Parliament to deny that they were ever part of such a panel, which again points to a lie that, had been put on the record in Parliament under oath. And perhaps that's why he didn't do anything, because, he just, I don't think it's the right thing to do, but you can tell he's a man who's clearly pressed against the wall.
Yes. He doesn't want to be recalled, and he also doesn't want to risk being in a position where ANC members are siding with the likes of DA and EFF when there's a motion of no confidence. So he's just doing to save his own political career, nothing else.
All right, Sammy, let's leave it there out in Centurion. Sure. Let me go to Gqeberha Vuyi. Good morning.
Morning, Osketi and the listeners. Quick one. I just want to find out if you can be able to assist the country by getting the Minister of Finance and also somebody who can enlighten us. What's the use of having deputy ministers? Because for the fact that we do have them, if they are needed, why Ramaphosa didn't take one off, or the deputy minister of police to act while they're investigating Mkunu?
Vuyi, sorry, just to answer that question rhetorically, I want you to think about examples where deputy ministers have been placed to replace ministers in the instance where a minister has been moved, reshuffled, unable to do their job for whatever reason. Are there any examples to you historically that come to mind?
I don't have it. That's the reason why I'm asking, because recently, why I was mentioning the Minister of Finance, recently there was a story whereby he says the country doesn't have money. They need some plans or tangible plans that can assist the country to get the money. That is why they wanted to raise the VAT. Yet we have got people who are paid more than 20 million in one department per annum. And yet we don't need them, or we don't use them. Now we have got this crisis now, whereby we have got Mkunu who have been put on special leave, and then they go out and look for someone else to be recruited. When you do your research, you find out that guy, 2009, he was involved into a lot of problems. DA took him off from Joburg. Now he's going to come here and act. Who trusts him? The commissioner itself, Madlanga. Why they didn't take Mogoeng, somebody that we all trust, and we know that he's not contaminated? Madlanga was part and parcel of the interviewers when they were interviewing the Chief Justice, whereby most of them, they all appointed the lady that she's a Chief Justice now. It took 2 years, the president, to decide their outcome. So now, when did he trying now to say he trusts him? Because he didn't trust him 3 years ago.
Okay.
Why are we not using Mogoeng?
Yeah, Vuyi, a couple of things. 20 million per annum. What informs that figure? Because you talk about people who get paid 20 million, and what it sounds like is that it's a suggestion that, a minister would get 20 million per annum. Just clarify that.
The package of the minister,
cost?
The package of one minister, including, if you think of all those bodyguards and all those blue lights and all those trips to Cape Town and all those hotels, how much does he spend per minister?
Yeah, it's not 20 million. In fact, some of the reports that I've seen doing some of the numbers have pitched it at between 10 and 12 million.
I hear you. I'm not going to dispute that. But recently, our deputy president visited a certain country. He spent more than 1 million in a weekend,
Mm.
in one weekend.
Look, so the point that you're making, perhaps, Vuyi, is that it is an additional cost to the taxpayer that we shouldn't have to bear.
Exactly, ma'am.
Perhaps staying away from the specifics of the numbers, and in as far as it relates to Justice Madlanga, what is your issue with him?
Madlanga, when there was interviews of Chief Justice when they appointed Zondo, you remember he was part of the interviewers.
Yes.
Some of them, which I believe even himself, they not recommended Zondo. They recommended Mandisa. But the president, after we came back, he didn't take their outcome.
Yes.
So now he trusts him now.
No, but
He trusts him now.
Vuyi, I don't think that's fair. It's the president's prerogative to decide who he wants to install as Chief Justice. Surely that cannot be seen as a reflection of how he views each and every member that sits on those interview panels.
I don't want to say I don't take your point, but what I'm saying is that if I was trusting you to help me to interview the Chief Justice, and then you come up with an outcome, and then you say, no, we recommend so and so, but I don't take that seriously. After 3 years, I think you can be able to do justice for our country. Whereas I didn't trust you 3 years ago.
But it wasn't a Justice Madlanga decision. It was a decision that was...
collective decision.
Yes.
Yes.
So why
this time
you would
is
single
all
him
alone.
out? Yes, why you would single him out is surprising for me.
No, the president was not confident with him 3 years ago. It's the same man and the same candidate. He didn't trust him. Why now he thinks, if he didn't trust him by then, why now?
Yeah, okay. All right, Vuyi. I hear the point. I certainly don't agree on some of the basis on which you have made the point. Magwaiga, you're in Cape Town. Good morning.
Molo sisikhethe kunjani?
Tate Magwaiga, I'm well. Let's get into it. Go into it.
Okay. Since Cathy, I think really it's time now and by ANC the out with power. I mean, really, the president ubeka umchunu kwi-special leave okanye kwi-leave, but umchunu ufumana zonke izinto zakhe. Salary ngokunedepi kunomnye uzawuacta uzawufumana isalary, while the people at the ground are very, very suffering. I think now it's time to take out ANC, but my problem is taking out ANC, which option? Because all those political parties, including ANC, they are the same. They are not there for people. If ANC is out, I don't know which really party we can put it there. Because even the DA, if you can come here in Western Cape, the poor people, the condition are living in Western Cape. Talking about MK, all those people, they are there in MK. They were comrades of the ANC. They know how to loot. They want to put their hands again now on government. EFF also, they got their scandals. I don't know about the SNSA. Really, but it's time now to take ANC out. That's all.
All right, Magwaiga, we'll leave it there. Pete, you're in Kroonstad. Good morning. Oh, Pete, you're in Kroonstad.
Pete, I really want to know this national dialogue. How much is going to be spent there exactly, while black people in particular, South Africa, are still in squalor and poverty? Can you please clarify it to me, Cathy?
Well, at this point, we still don't know, Bede. We're waiting for those that are organizing to look at what is going to the work and then cost it. There's that estimated figure that has been spoken about, 700 million, but that said is to... Is-
Go on.
Bete,
Go on.
surely it's not the first time you're hearing that.
Yeah, it's not the first one, but I'm really disappointed because this ANC government has been in power for 30 years. Surely we cannot say it didn't know how to govern this country. Now, because they see that these labours now, they want to have a national dialogue to ask people what to do now.
Yeah, look, if it's anywhere close to that figure, I think South Africans would be well within their rights to continue to reject the idea, because there's no way it should be costing that much when we have so many other things that require financial support, that requires resources.
I'm really disappointed by this government. Well, I'm not sure it's better than Ramaphosa, but I'm really frustrated. While here in the 50s, there's a lot of poverty. People are not working, but it's going to have a meeting that worth so much.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
All right. Bete,
No, but God will judge. Okay.
Bete, we'll leave it there. I guess it's also a case of reading the room, right? Read the room. Read the country. We're sitting with unemployment rates that are just, they're unfathomable. High hunger levels. All of these challenges. In the midst of that then, if you are clearly reading the room, does it make sense to be running a process such as a national dialogue for that cost? I think it'll be important for South Africa to have a national dialogue, but not for 700 million rand. And it must be a process that people feel they're part of. But how do we get there is the question. It's 10 o'clock, time for your latest news headlines, or news update rather, and then we'll get into our finance segment in the second hour of the show.
In our top stories, civil society groups march in support of Mkhwanazi and Education MEC in Mpumalanga removed. Good morning. Organisers of the hashtag Hands Off Mkhwanazi March say they reject President Cyril Ramaphosa's establishment of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry to probe corruption allegations in the police. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi implicated senior police officials, including the Minister, Senzo Mchunu, in corruption and having links to criminal syndicates. Scores of residents groups and some political parties will participate in the march, which is in support of Mkhwanazi. One of the organisers, Vincent Mdunge, says they view Mkhwanazi as a whistleblower who needs protection.
We are therefore supporting him in the view that we know that the attacks that are directed at him are simply intended to protect the criminal element, because there are ministers of parliament, including Senzo Mchunu, that are in cahoots with the criminals, that are sharing the same bed, that are on the back pocket of the criminal element. And we cannot trust a man like that. We want the president to do a complete overhaul of the justice cluster system. We are saying a political killings task team must be resuscitated, and we are saying the president is breaking the law. The Constitution of the Republic clearly says there shall be no two ministers of cabinet that are going to serve or be appointed in one portfolio.
Meanwhile, a recent Human Sciences Research Council study has revealed public trust in the police has significantly declined. The study found that only 22% of citizens expressed trust in the police in 2022, with the 2023 and 2024 to 2025 confidence levels almost unchanged. This has been partially attributed to incidents such as the July 2021 unrest, during which police were accused of brutality. HSRC senior researcher Dr. Nkapeli Mchunu.
What we've seen in our research is that events that relate to police, for example, such as Marikana and how the Marikana protests were handled and the force that was used, tends to have a negative effect on how South Africans view the police. We also saw the same in the 2021 riots, where people felt that the police were not proactive or they did not do enough to protect or to prevent the riots. So events of that nature tend to have a serious bearing and effect on citizens' views. So if events of that nature unfold and an image or perception is created that the police could have done better.
Mpumalanga Premier Mandla Ndlovu has removed the Education MEC Cathy Mohlahlana from his cabinet. The change comes a few months after the 2 million rand laptop procurement scandal. Speaker of the Provincial Legislature Linda Masina has replaced Mohlahlana. Meanwhile, former Ehlanzeni District Municipal Mayor Jester Siddle is now the Economic Development and Tourism MEC. Other changes are MEC Ketwe Muketsi moving to the Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs Department. Nompumelelo Hlope is the Social Development MEC. Some areas in and around Johannesburg will experience low pressure or no water as Rand Water starts to work on its Palmit 02 pipeline this morning. This is part of the utility's planned maintenance on its bulk water infrastructure. It's been staggered over a 3-month period from May to the 18th of this month. Rand Water spokesperson Makinosi Maru.
The municipalities that will be impacted are the metros, City of Johannesburg, City of Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, and Madibeng. We would like to thank our customers for their understanding and patience as we complete the necessary work that has to be done.
And finally, President Donald Trump says he's not done with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. He said this after giving the green light for the new transfer of arms to Ukraine. In a telephone interview with the BBC, Trump also endorsed the NATO alliance, having once described it as obsolete.
I'm not done with him, but I'm disappointed in him. Bill, we had a deal done 4 times, and then you go home and you see he just attacked a nursing home or something in Kiev. I said, what the hell was that all about? I think NATO is now becoming the opposite of that. I do think it was passed, and it was very unfair because the United States paid for almost 100% of it. But now they're paying their own bills, and I think that's much better.
Recapping the top story, organisers of the hashtag Hands Off Mkhwanazi March say they reject President Cyril Ramaphosa's establishment of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry to probe corruption allegations in the police. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. SAFM, in collaboration with the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz, brings you the Jazz for Young People concert happening at the National School of the Arts on the 26th of July 2025. Tune in to Seasons and the Soundtrack of Your Life, broadcasting live. This unique event is a powerful celebration of youth, creativity, and community spirit. Bring the whole family to enjoy a wonderful day of world-class jazz from young musicians, curated by Zoe Mudicha, featuring National School of the Arts Band, Willow Crescent Magnet School of Music Band, Biko's Manor, and many others. Have fun while doing good. Tickets are available at Quicket for just 80 Rand and 50 Rand for kids under 12. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Bruce Davidson, delighted to have you on the show as our guest on our 500th episode of Top Sport.
Thank you, Michael.
Which is either going to be a repeat of what happened, that epic match at the Olympics last year in Paris, or indeed a repeat of the French Open final. So whatever we get is going to be a treat.
Yeah, I think so. The grass makes it very different to the French Open and to Paris. So I think, that's a big one. But, Sinner wants us badly. I mean, Sinner knows that he's the world number one. He's capable of winning a lot of Grand Slams in his career, and Wimbledon's always a big one, and the first one is very, very special, and plays a good game on grass, so he's really going to put a lot into it. Then we've got Novak going for that record-breaking 25th Grand Slam. So that's in itself. And then, of course, Alcaraz. I mean, the way he played today against a really tricky opponent, I think if he plays that way against any of these two on Sunday, he's going to win the title.
Top Sport on SAFM. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
It's 8 after 10 o'clock. Welcome to the second hour of The Talking Point. Coming up in this hour, we're talking finance. Sandy van der Zanden in today, Brian still away. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of both spouses having a financial plan. Lots of questions that we can all put to Sandy. So I hope you're going to be tuned in for the rest of the hour. Before we get to it, lots of your WhatsApp voice notes and messages on different matters. We'll take a couple of those and then Sandy is live.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Cathy, this is Morag from Hulu in the Eastern Cape. This little Jaden Lee, it's just such a tragedy. And in my opinion, these tragic cases are usually in the families where there's extreme poverty and the parents have got into some sort of substance abuse. Alcohol being a huge one. I mean, I don't know why alcohol is allowed to be sold the way it is. Anyway, also Jaden Lee, apparently I did read that he had been seen to be abused and very often hungry, and that was by members of the community and the school. So just that information, I think, I can't remember my source, it might have been Eyewitness News. Thank you.
Exactly the reason that's the problem. This lady that's phoning and saying there's organizations that are being funded, but they are not doing the job, but she's not going to mention them. Mention them. This is how we start getting things properly done. Mention who are these people that are stealing from our children, that are making our children suffer for no reason. If the funds are there, why are our children suffering?
Good morning to you, Cathy Mohlahlana, and your listeners. This is Reverend Judge Malabatsi from the Foundation of Peace, Human Rights and Justice. It is very sad to hear that a woman has actually abused a child until death. And I know that when we speak about gender-based violence, especially in terms of the ratio where more males are seen to be the perpetrators, but also gender-based violence can be perpetrated by anybody, a male or female. And I then encourage that we should deal with this in a very most sensitive way, also because of the way in which the socio-economic issues affected the person and also the lack of understanding the law.
Hi, Cathy. Crispin here from Durban. I phoned in the other day about being told to produce an ID by some unidentified people at Addington Hospital, and they lied to everyone about the Constitution. I went back. I witnessed a woman being denied admission to get ARVs, and a young South African with no ID who also needs ARVs for HIV being denied admission. I went back to the police. The police response is inadequate, just inadequate. And I remember how the 2021 violence was triggered first by attacks on foreigners, Moy River, shops in Durban.
Gore, I don't know whether we should say South African law is damn stupid, because they are suspect to be abused by foreigners who come here seeking residence by marrying South African women. And they just rush. You know, some are even renting their names to people who go to the clinic and hospitals, people who want IDs and citizenship by marrying them. They are willingly doing it. So we must change the law. And we say you marry South African woman within 15 or 20 years. If you divorce, we cancel it. You go back to your own country. I think that is the only way. We must be proactive. We can't allow our laws, generosity of our constitution to be abused. I mean, how can you have a law that says if for illegal foreigner come to the country, occupy a building, then you must give them alternative accommodation when you chase them? No, it can't be. It's only in South Africa, Banana Republic.
Cathy Mohlahlana on SAFM. Talking finance, making sense of your finance.
Sandy, a very good and warm welcome to you. Hello.
Hi, Cathy, and good morning to the listeners. Lovely to be here.
So today we're going to touch on a very important subject, and I'm sure I step on a couple of toes while doing it. So, you've titled it "The Importance of Both Spouses Having a Financial Plan." That was not lost on me, by the way, because if you think about households and how they set up, when you have two individuals, whether partners, whether spouses in the house, often they would be thinking that there's one financial plan. So why two financial plans?
So it's interesting that you picked up on the word spouses, because I was actually playing with it in my head as well before settling on the topic. And I chose spouses just to be clear that we're talking about, two people in a permanent relationship, but that doesn't necessarily, as you say, have to be marriage. If it can be two partners. Anybody who's living together in a relationship that's intended to be permanent are considered by SARS to be spouses in any event. So we're really talking about, joint financial planning for partners, spouses, anybody together in a relationship. And particularly where there's, children involved, or there's multiple incomes involved, it can become confusing, it can become messy, and you want clarity around what's going on there. Marriage is actually also, and we'll just confine it to marriage now, just for simplicity. Marriage is, a financial partnership, not just an emotional one. There are legal consequences, financial consequences, and it's not really fair and not really smart necessarily for one partner to be shouldering all of the burden of the financial knowledge, because there's a lot of pressure that comes with that as well. They talk about the mental burden, carried in different roles, in relationships, and the financial role would be one of those. So sharing, shared financial planning actually helps to reduce that stress, and it also strengthens the relationship.
So there should be shared planning, even if there's not necessarily equal contribution.
Correct. So, and we often come across situations where we might have two financial plans, which is fine. Not every relationship or every spouse wants their other half to know everything that's going on with their finances. That's okay, as long as the two plans speak to one another. So you can have two black boxes, sitting on the table. That's okay, but as long as they know what the output is out of each box, what's coming out of that black box, what's coming out of that black box, how does that affect us together? So, for example, you could say, I've got cover to the value of R1 million. That'll provide you with 5,000 Rand a month until you retire. You can include that in your financial plan. I've got it. This is who you get hold of in the event I'm no longer here. And that just allows you to create or to flesh out your own plan, knowing what the other inputs are. Because otherwise, you have to assume there is no plan. Right? There is no second black box waiting there with values and potential help for me. I need to plan everything as if there's nothing else there, which you can do, but it becomes more expensive, number one. It becomes more difficult to plan, because also if you're not getting input from the other side, you have to make assumptions in many cases. And it can be done, but it makes things a little bit more complicated.
Sandy, in your experience, because you've just touched on the fact that not both parties have to know absolutely everything that is going on financially. in as far as how their lives are organized. Do you find that to be something you come across quite often? Because isn't the whole point of being married that what's yours is mine, what's mine is yours? You know, you basically even expose your liver and say, this is how long my liver is going to last me. At some point, I might need a liver transplant or not. You know, so I'm quite fascinated by this idea that even if you have a spouse, they don't have to know everything, or there are people who don't share everything, but who choose what to share, and perhaps some of the arrangements that you've come across in your line of work.
For sure. So it's also quite useful just to go back and understand how you are married. So are you married in community of property? Are you married out of community of property? And do you have the accrual system? So simply if you just get married and you don't state otherwise, you're married in community of property. So that means you own everything together. All your debts are joint. All your assets are joint. You have 50% claim on anything else. And if you're taking out a policy that nominates anybody other than your spouse, you have to get your spouse to consent to that beneficiary nomination if it's not to them. Anti-nuptial contract basically means that what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. And if we go our separate ways, we each keep what we had, what we have. And then you can get the accrual system, which basically means that what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, that we bring into the marriage. But what we build during the marriage is actually shared between us, almost like community of property from marriage forwards, other than you don't physically own, you're not liable for debts of the spouse and that type of thing. So that would actually go a long way to informing, the start of the conversation is how are we married? What does it mean for us? It's quite important to understand, the legalities and the consequences around that. Because, for example, if you're married in community of property, all of the interest earned between you is shared. So SARS basically divides it by 2 and allocates it to either of you. So if one spouse is earning all the money and the other spouse is a stay-at-home spouse earning nothing, SARS will see them as earning 50% of the interest earned by the spouse who holds the assets. So that would be a very important starting point, is how we married, what is the effect on us in terms of tax, in terms of legal, if we split our own ways, that type of thing. Because then you start moving on to questions of, well, and we've had it before, where life cover can be a bit of a touchy subject. The one taking the cover doesn't want the other half to know how much they covered for. It is said a bit tongue in cheek when it's told to me, but they're also a little bit serious. Yeah. So they want to make sure that their spouse is covered. They just don't want their spouse to know how much, and they don't want any incentive for them no longer to be around.
Did you just say they don't want incentive for them to not be around, Sandy?
So that's, as I say, I've come across that a few times. Whether it was intended completely as a joke or not, The fact remains the other spouse remained ignorant of the cover, but the cover was in place to protect them if something happened to them.
Look, there are many people that often say that there's a lot of truth in jest, right? So I guess that's part of what it
Many
comes down to.
Many a true word in jest.
Exactly. If we begin then to unpack it, Sandy, because this is, and we'll get to the issue of life cover, but just in the marital regime, there are debates about which is best. People will have that conversation from the point of, if you are in business and let's say one of those businesses goes under, it's better if you're out of community of property so the assets are not seen as one, etc., etc. But from a purely financial perspective, so if you're thinking, my intention here is to safeguard myself, safeguard my family, safeguard my children, I'm going to put you on the spot. Which is the best marital regime? Save taxes. Which is the best marital regime?
So if you're in business, as you say, and you married in community of property, you need to be aware that your assets can be, taken away, and that can affect your family. If you married out of community of property and you hold assets in the we'll call it the non-earning spouse's name. So that was typically the way of protecting the house, for example, the family home. The one spouse earns all the money, he's in business, and I'll just use he here just because, and he's earning all the money, he's in business, but there's potential that he may go out of business. He's taking on, debts to ensure that the business gets off the ground. If anything happens to that business, he doesn't want to lose the home, so the home is bought in the spouse's name, not in his name. So in that way, you protected the family home. The realities around that, become, a little bit trickier because, just because the house is in the other spouse's name, how do you pay for the ongoing maintenance, for the ongoing bond repayments, etc.? So, it's to ask which marital regime is better, it's a bit like, sitting in a hatchback and saying, "Just we should really be driving a sports car." Whichever car you're in is the car you're in. You try and make the best call as to which vehicle makes the most sense for you, and when you're in it, then you need to make sure that you make it work the best that you can. Each will have advantages and disadvantages, and you really need to engage with somebody who does understand those nuances and how to help you navigate it the best.
Where do we need to begin in terms of the financial planning, and not just focusing on retirement and what happens at retirement?
For sure. So financial planning is not just about retirement, right? So retirement's very important because hopefully we all get there. Either we die too soon or we retire, forcibly or by choice. And really you wanting financial options when you're reaching crossroads in your life. That's really what financial planning is about. So it would include everything from budgeting to insurance to debt to investments, your will. Very, very important document. The will is called the cornerstone of financial planning because it is the one document that speaks for you when you're no longer here. So if you out there are listening and you are married or you have a family or both, and even if you don't and you're wanting to make sure that your family doesn't have unnecessary complications when you are no longer here, your will is the most important next step for you. Make sure you have a will in place just to make sure there are no complications, no issues, and everybody knows what your intentions are and what you want to happen. Particularly important around underage children, and if you're needing to provide income for somebody when you're no longer here.
When we talk about income gaps, what are we referencing there, and what do we need to do, right, in terms of making sure that we're covered for the risk gaps as well?
For sure. So you could almost say that income gaps are risk gaps. And what I mean by that is, what happens if, let's say one of you is the main earner and the other one stays at home, just simple clean-cut case, and there's variances around these, but let's just say the breadwinner. The breadwinner is working, something happens to the breadwinner, what happens to the spouse? Right, so now there's no income coming in, there may still be debts outstanding, there's expenses certainly that continue. How are these catered for? That's a risk gap. And often not really thought about is, even worse, financially speaking, is if something happens to the breadwinner and they don't die, they just can't work anymore, right? They're permanently disabled. What plan have you got in place to replace that income? Because remember, now the spouse is still around, the breadwinner is still around, but they're still consuming and they're still incurring expenses, but they're not earning any money. That's where your disability cover, income protection, kick in to try and provide that cover for you. You may have annuity income, which is great, which covers for that, but it's very important to understand that gap. If you die, one thing clearly we understand. We pay off the debts, we make sure there's enough assets to provide income for the family, that to replace what you would be earning if you weren't here. But what if you're still here? You still can't earn, but you're consuming expenses. You still need to be saving for your retirement. Best you have a plan in place to cover that. And it doesn't have to be cover, it can be your own cover. You can self-insure, but best there is some kind of plan to provide you with that replacement income. And remember, equal protection, ensures that families stay afloat under any scenario. Because, just because the one spouse is the breadwinner doesn't mean there's not a financial impact if something happens to the stay-at-home spouse, for example. So let's just say the stay-at-home spouse looks after the 2 minor children, they're not at school-going age yet, and something happens to the stay-at-home spouse. That has a serious financial impact on the family. Unless there's other family that can step in to look after the kids, and that can step in to help with getting to school, for example, or that type of thing, you have to hire somebody to replace that at cost. So there is never let it be said that, being a stay-at-home spouse is without financial value, and it should be included in the plan.
Okay. We're going to continue this conversation with Sandy, and we're going to be getting then into what this idea of separate financial goals, but having that shared vision, what that practically needs to look like from a planning point of view. Before we get into it, it is now 10:30. Let's take you to the latest news headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines, organizers of the hashtag Hands Off Mkhwanazi March are demanding the protection of KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. The E-Hailing Partners Council says some e-hailing companies' decision to increase the commission taken from operators and drivers has negatively affected their salaries. And Mpumalanga Premier Mandla Ndlovu has removed Education MEC Cathy Dlamini from his cabinet. The change comes a few months after the 2 million rand laptop procurement scandal. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand is currently trading at 17 rand 79 to the dollar, 23 rand 91 to the pound, and 20 rand 80 to the euro. Markets in Asia were mainly higher at the closing bell, the JSE extending gains in mid-morning trade, and markets in Europe are green across the board. Gold is trading at $3,364, platinum $1,373 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $68.68 a barrel.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday. Talking finance, making sense of your finance.
Sandy's in studio, and today we're talking about the importance of spouses, at least both spouses, having a financial plan. Very soon I'll be taking your questions. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, send those messages on 0614 104 107. So, Sandy, I was quite interested by this. And it's a note that you've made about women outliving men and therefore inheriting that financial responsibility as we age, I guess. What have you found, and what then becomes the advice around that in order to plan sufficiently?
So statistically, women live longer than men. That's just a statistical fact. Doesn't mean it's going to be what happens in every scenario, but often the women will survive longer, and they don't often learn to manage the money until it's thrust upon them. So they haven't been part of the planning process. They haven't been part of understanding, all of the ins and outs. What is our financial plan? How are we getting everything forward? They may not even attend the meetings with the family financial planner, and now suddenly the spouse is no longer around, the breadwinner is no longer around. How do we, where do we start? Many widows, the first emotion is obviously grief, shock, and then would come confusion or stress. And then often, they can be left open to unscrupulous people taking advantage of them because they've never really been in this role. They've never really held the reins of the family finances, and now they do. And now they have to start navigating this world that's completely unfamiliar to them. So my very strong recommendation is always, and Brian has been very big on this, financial empowerment, financial knowledge. It gives you empowerment. It enables peace of mind. And it just gives you, more tools to be able to handle the unexpecteds that life is going to throw at you.
Sandy, as you're speaking, part of I guess part of what you're saying I'm fascinated by from different levels. Number one, I'm thinking about my own experience, right? I grew up in a single parent household. So the idea of a woman not being privy to the finances or having a word on that or having a say on that is not an experience that I would say I have seen, but that is quite personal and subjective.
I'm very glad to hear that.
Yeah, and also when you talk about the structure, the man being the one who runs the households, finances, etc., and sort of often the woman not being involved, it leads me to ask, because you of course are speaking based on the perspectives of what you see every single day, and are we still that traditional in in what is happening in our families and in marriages? Is it really still that entrenched that the man is the one that does 1, 2, and 3? And I could be completely ignorant, but of course one would think, well, the world is evolving, things are changing 50-50, but if you're talking this way, then it clearly is not what is happening.
So I'll answer you on two levels, because you answered personally, so I will answer personally as well. I also grew up in a single parent household, but I grew up in a single parent household with my grandparents. Okay. So I actually had 3 parents growing up, and my mom did not have a clue about finances. Didn't want to have a clue, wasn't interested in having a clue, and it made things very difficult, as a family to try and piece things together and to try and plan when one party didn't really want to come to the party. So a lot of it is personal. Some people just make a decision, it's not my area, because if you think about it, when you get married, you will really decide on what your roles are as a couple, or at least successful marriages will decide on what their roles are, because otherwise you're always having conflict. You're stepping on my toes, this, why are you trying to do this? I should be doing this. If you sit down as a couple and you say, what are our roles? Okay, you clearly going out and earning the money. I'm going to stay home, for example. But it doesn't end there. Who does the cooking? Who does the budgeting? Who does the shopping? Who does the recon on the finances every month? Who decides what car we're driving? Who decides where we're going to live? Who decides where our children are going to school? These are all roles that are decided on an individual basis. There'll obviously be a broader society view on it, and I make no comment as to that, because I don't deal with broader society, I deal with people. And people make decisions for themselves that they think are in their best interests, whether it is actually in their best interests or not. Everybody makes decisions to try and do the best they can for themselves and their family. And sometimes that decision is, I'm going to focus in this area. I want nothing to do with that area. That's your baby. You deal with it. and I may not even want any input from you at all. You just handle it. I want nothing to do with it. And that's where the challenges come in, with not knowing what's going on when the unexpected happens.
So if we come back then to this idea of having separate goals, shared vision, practically what needs to go into it? And, if my goal is to get 10 new pairs of shoes this year, and the shared vision says we can't afford 10 new pairs of shoes, but I feel like because of the money I'm not disclosing that I have hidden in my corner somewhere, that no, we can't afford it, but I can afford it. So how does that play out in real life, Sandy? How can you have separate goals but this shared vision?
So you actually touched on two important, well, maybe three important ideas there. The first idea is that there are shoes and shoes.
Of course.
And it depends what type of shoes we're talking about.
Naturally.
And the second is that you may also be running separate budgets, which is not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, it again goes to that, how do we want our family to run? Right. So if you're each running your own budgets, that's absolutely fine. Then whatever you're buying within your budget is cool, as long as you are taking care of your responsibilities. So if your responsibility is to pay for the bond and to pay for the grocery shopping, as long as that area is covered, you would also hope that part of your responsibility is to cater for yourself at retirement, to make sure that you are protecting your own income, because now we don't have a joint financial plan. We've got two individual plans. So best your plan sorts out your area, including your retirement. So if something happens to you unexpectedly, you're covered. You're covering all your ongoing requirements and responsibilities. That's covered. You're covering your future needs, assuming you're still here and we're both fine. And you may have some vision slightly different to me, what that future entails and what your expenses entail. As long as your plan speaks to that and covers that, that's absolutely fine. And if, as part of that plan, you've got 10 pairs of shoes a month built into your budget, that's fine. As long as you're at least meeting your requirements on all of those areas. Anything unexpected happens, you're covering your ongoing requirements and you're providing for future requirements. Then that's absolutely fine. The shoes are cool.
But the idea of running separate budgets in one household, it just doesn't sound right, Sandy. And is that in line with a shared vision?
So that's the key, right? And this may be an exercise that you've never run through. So if you're in a relationship, this may be something very useful to you. I've certainly found it very useful, and clients have found it very useful. Is sitting down and just writing you can do it individually first. So what are my top 100 things? What's my bucket list? My top 100 things I'd like to do, see, have, or be in my lifetime, with a date, right? Because then it's not just a wish list, it becomes a goal list. So it's got to have a date. So you can do that each as an individual. And now you get together and you start crafting your shared vision. What would we like to do, have, or be in our lifetime, and when? We want to own our own home debt-free in the next 20 years. We would like to travel the world as a couple for a month, a year, whatever it is, first class. How do we now start putting that together? So you've got to start with a vision, right? The vision is everything. Then you start doing the work, right? So the shared vision is, what do we want? When do we want it? How do we want it? What are we prepared to sacrifice to get it. Right? So if you're running your own individual budgets, it can make things, you need an extra step in there, because you need to obviously trust, and then each party has to say, I can contribute this. So I'm covering all my responsibilities in all of those three areas. I'm covering my ongoing, I'm covering my unexpected risks, and I'm covering my future requirements. That's all covered. In addition to that, I can contribute 1,000 Rand a month towards our shared vision. Other party says, that's great, I'm the breadwinner, I can contribute 7,000 Rand a month. It's not equal, right? It's not the same amount, but it's going into a combined pot. So what you can do is you can run 2 individual budgets for the ongoings, and you can run a shared vision budget. Okay, so now as a family, we've got 8,000 Rand a month. How do we want to spend that to achieve our goals?
And where would you suggest that money go? Is it in a savings account? Is it, what do you do?
So remember, your goals could include a wide variety of things. So it may be we need to own a car. We need a second car in the family. One is not enough. That requires budget. So we're going to allocate 3,000 Rand a month towards the car. That leaves us in this example with 5,000 Rand a month. But we'd also like to go on holiday every year. What kind of holiday? Are we going to Paris or Paris? Very, very different budgets. And we need to allocate for that. So maybe that takes another 3,000 Rand. Maybe now we're left with 2,000 Rand of our budget. What do we do with that? Maybe we're allocating that towards our longer term goals. Maybe it means that's an extra 2,000 Rand put into the house, because we want to own our own home in 15 years, not 20. So every Rand we put into the bond saves us on interest and reduces the time we have to pay it off.
Yeah, fair enough. Heard you loud and clear, Sandy. Estate planning, who inherits what, how? This is where things start to get tricky, eh?
They do get tricky, and they do get messy, which is why I would highly, highly, highly recommend, just as a first step, that either you have a joint will or each of you has a will. Right? The will is signed, dated, witnessed, and original, not a copy. And we need to find an original signed, dated will on death, and you know where it is. You may want more than one original copy, so one for each of you and one for the kids, or one for each of you and one for the parents, whatever the case may be, just so you can find an original. The next, in fact, I would say 3. So first is your will. The second would be a letter of wishes, if applicable, which is basically just, it's like a letter, as it says. You can put it in an envelope, put it with your will. It has no legal consequence, but it just caters for things that the will might be silent on, right? So I've got 4 daughters. Who gets the jewelry? Which jewelry? Maybe it's not valuable enough to mention in the will financially, but I know one daughter likes that painting, one daughter likes that necklace. So each one is catered for fairly, and nobody feels like they've been done out of something from the family. So it's your will, together with your letter of wishes. And the third thing that we've been quite strong on lately is a life file. So Brian's mentioned it many times. You're welcome to pop through a message or ask us for it. We'll send it through to you. There's many versions of it, so ours is only one of them. And basically, it's just a comprehensive file or a folder or a document in which you keep all your important stuff. Where's the deed to the house? Where's the car registration papers? Where do we hold bank accounts? What investments do we have? Where are they? How do I access them? What debit orders are running? How do we get into each other's bank accounts? Do we have access to each other's bank accounts? Because on death comes unexpectedly, and it comes quickly. Now the surviving spouse is around saying, How am I paying this month's expenses? Right. So always, always, always we recommend having assets in each of your name, liquid assets to cover immediate expenses in the events, and then we start working through process.
This is probably the important part then to bring back the conversation of life cover.
So life cover, if you think about it, is really, it's like insurance on your car. You don't ever want to have a car accident just to claim on your insurance. You may want to fake a car accident to claim on your insurance, but you don't want to be in the car accident in order to claim the insurance. Life cover is the same. In fact, it's worse because you never get the benefit, right? You never get a cent paid out to you of your life cover. You may have like a payback bonus or something attached to the policy, which, by the way, you pay for in the premiums. But you don't get a cent of the payout of your life policy because the requirement is that you are no longer here to receive the benefit in order for it to pay out. Life cover is there to replace or to provide liquidity, to provide cash, to provide assets for the survivors when you're no longer here, to replace the income you're earning, to ensure same standard of living, and to ensure continuance of lifestyle. To replace is effectively to replace your financial contribution to the family. That's what it's for. You may have assets, so you may have properties, you may have ongoing income, you may have rental income, so maybe your need for life cover is less. Life cover is one tool. You may have enough assets that you don't need life cover, but it's certainly worthwhile running through a cash flow analysis to understand, and any financial planner can do this for you. How much cover do I need? You may not need cover. You may be overinsured. You may be able to drop your insurance premiums down, all to the good. Then you can use that money somewhere else in your budget. But the first step is understanding how much cover should I have.
Sandy, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to take a break because I've got quite a number of questions that are coming in for you. I do want us just to also touch briefly, though, on something you've noted down here, which is around financial abuse and dependency,
Yes.
because I think that's something that we also see all too often in relationships. So I'll be taking your calls for Sandy. I've noted the voice notes and the text messages you've sent through. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial this morning. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107.
My name is Fikile Makama. I'm from Cape Town and I'm a defender. Between city life and village life, I will choose village life. I like being around people. I would like to say to my friends back home, they know where I come from. They've seen my struggles. So me being here is me representing them and my family. We are the champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connect.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
This Mandela Month, Nelson Mandela once said,
"We have traveled a long journey. We have fought for peace and reconciliation, for social justice, for all men, women, and children."
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday. Talking finance, making sense of your finance.
Hi, Cathy. Can you please find out for me? A 72-year-old woman who was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, and I had a disability cover. I want to claim it so that I can take care of myself now. Can I have an advice how to do it, to make sure, and then how can I use that money to make sure that it lasts me for 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 my rest of my life. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. I didn't get your name. I'm very sorry to hear about the diagnosis for you, and I wish you a full, swift, and complete recovery. With regards to your question around disability cover, your first step is to approach the insurer who you have cover with to make sure that you qualify for a claim, because disability cover, the intention is to replace income that you're earning, or to pay out in the event of permanent disability, physical disability. So the cancer may have caused physical disability in your case, in which case you may qualify for a claim. It may also have stopped you from working, in which case you may also qualify for a claim. But your first step is you need to contact the insurer, submit a claim. The worst they can do is say no, but then at least you know where you are and in terms of what benefits you are entitled to.
On what grounds do insurance companies often decline these kind of claims?
So you'll often find a decline in claims where somebody's trying to claim for something that the policy wasn't intended for, or they've passed the expiry date of the benefits. So, for example, disability cover was traditionally taken to age 65. So I note that you did say you are 72 years old. If it was an older policy, you might find that cover actually lapses at age 65. Newer disability covers are taken later because we are working longer. But that's why I say is in your circumstances, you need to get hold of your insurer and ask them where you stand.
Thank you for that advice. And I suppose it's also to mark a note to say, pay attention to the details, read the fine print.
The details matter.
Good morning, Sandy and Cathy. I just want clarity on this issue of disability. My husband is turning 65 next year. He has been paying over 3,000 rand for towards his disability. But what is strange to me is that it is expiring next year. So what happens to all the money that he has paid for over 20 years? That is really unfair. So disability for me is neither here nor there because we have medical aid. Mina from Rainbow.
Hi, Mina. Thank you for the question. Firstly, I'm glad to hear that your husband is reaching retirement in good health. That is actually the outcome you want. And I know it's cold comfort, but insurance is something you don't want to be claiming on, because it means you have something or something's happened to you that you don't want to happen to you. The best way to look at disability cover is a bit like car insurance. You take the insurance until you stop driving. If you never claim, if you never have an accident, that policy has actually been a complete waste of money. But if at any point you had needed to claim, that safety net was there for you. So in a way, you're very grateful because nothing's happened to you and you didn't need to claim. But on the other side of things, it's been money down the drain, for a safety net that you didn't need in the end.
Yeah, I guess it's always that gamble that one has to take.
We've got to take calculated risks. We don't like the term gambling, but calculated risks make sense. The alternative to having disability cover would have been taking the calculated risk in not having disability cover. You would have saved the premiums. So let's say it was 3,000 Rand a month. You would have saved that 36,000 Rand over the year. But if something had happened to you in year one, you would only have 36,000 Rand in your pocket. How would you have funded income all the way through to age 65 from age 30? It's a lot of money. And most of us will never save up enough money to have replaced that payout potential, which is why we use cover.
Okay. I've got another question for you, Sandy. How does something like a family business come in before or after our separate budgets? Do we look at the hypothetical 8,000 Rand we have together including business profits, or do we split the profit first and only then calculate how much we have together after the individual expenses? And this is assuming the business is an additional source of income and both of us still work and make most of our money from employment.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to suggest that if this is a real scenario for you, please contact me directly and we'll chat through your scenario, because I can't give you a very detailed answer over the phone. But in principle, one other professional you should loop into this discussion is your accountant. You know, if you have a family business, please tell me you have an accountant, because family businesses can get messy. You do want clear-cut rules on what happens in terms of income, tax deductibility, tax efficiency, how it's run. Are we drawing incomes? Are we paying dividends? There's a lot of curious quirks that come into family businesses, and a lot of opportunities that come in for tax planning, estate planning, etc. So that's certainly a more detailed answer than I can give you on the radio. I'd suggest just giving us a ring or popping us a mail, and we can give you some more detail.
Another question says, hi, Sandy, which one is advisable for one to go for between investment and life cover?
The answer is yes. You actually...
The question is which one? Life cover
so
or
you need
investment?
both, is the reality. Well, you may need both. The first step is assessing how much cover you need, how much budget you have, and then we make calculated risks. We make decisions.
Okay, I'm going to squeeze in this voice note. Just one last one. Is it a question? The one on 50-50.
Good morning, Cathy. I think this 50-50 theory is not realistic and practical. First and foremost, you are whole, you are 100 coming into the marriage. So why 50-50 in your contributions? Your salaries are not the same. So why would it be 50-50? It can never be. So maybe that 50-50 thing should just be thrown out. It's not realistic, it's not practical. Debuye, thanks.
All right. I guess, yeah, you part of what you're saying, Debu, is absolutely correct. Sandy, your details before we let you go.
So if you want to get hold of us on the radio line is 011 880 4888, and you can always pop us an email on info@bhca.co.za, or you can find the details on our website.
Thank you so much for coming in, Sandy. Always a pleasure. And, of course, the finance segment back with you again next week, Tuesday, between 10 and 11. For now, it's time for your latest news update.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, #hands off Mkhwanazi March demands his protection, and Mpumalanga Education MSc removed from the cabinet. For SAFM News, I am Ondalambana, and a very good morning. Organisers of the #Hands Off Mkhwanazi March are demanding the protection of KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. They also say they reject President Cyril Ramaphosa's establishment of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry to probe Mkhwanazi's implication of senior police officials, including Minister Senzo Mchunu, in corruption and having links to criminal syndicates. Scores of residents, groups and some political parties are participating in the march in support of Mkhwanazi. Member of one of the participating organizations, Teresa Nogia.
We are not happy with the move that has been pulled by the president to put Mchunu on special leave with all perks paid. That is unethical and it's unlawful. He should have been suspended with immediate effect, no perks thereof. Mkhwanazi has been there for the citizens of KZN. Whenever there is something happening there, Mkhwanazi was always there to back it up. So we want South Africa to know that we are backing up Mkhwanazi 100%. And we want the president to adhere to the cries of South Africa's citizens, because this is a true hero. And we don't even want to think about the consequences that might happen if anything happens to Mkhwanazi.
E-Hailing Partners Council says some e-hailing companies' decision to increase the commission taken from operators and drivers has negatively affected their salaries. Dozens of operators have embarked on a protest at Uber's head office in Parktown, Johannesburg. The disgruntled operators say they are unhappy about issues including changes to Uber's commission percentages and unprofitable trip fares. The council spokesperson is Zisko Mnguni.
Bolt and Uber now, the transporting prices are very low, but when it comes to a commission, it's become 50-50 between app owners and the driver. So now the commission is very high, and compared to the money that we are being paid by the passengers, the money is low, and then the commission is very high, and the petrol as well. At least if they can drop their commission maybe to go to 20%, and then it will meet us as drivers, it is better than what they are doing.
Western Cape Police Oversight Minister Andrew Murray has welcomed the arrest of 2 suspects linked to the gunning down of 4 people in Bishop Levis last week. 2 men and 2 women were killed at a home in the area. The 20th court today. Murray has commended police for the arrests.
I congratulate the anti-gang unit detectives. Their determination and meticulous investigative work led to this breakthrough.
Mpumalanga Premier Mandla Ndlovu has removed Education MEC Cathy Mohlahlana from his cabinet. The change comes a few months after the 2 million rand laptop procurement scandal. Speaker of the Provincial Legislature Linda Masina has replaced Dlamini. Meanwhile, former Entlazeni District Municipal Mayor Jester Sidel is now the Economic Development and Tourism MEC. Other changes are MEC Cathy Mohlahlana moving to the Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs Department. Nompumelelo Hlophe is the Social Development MEC. The world's largest human imaging project says it has now hit its target of scanning the brains, hearts and organs of 100,000 volunteers. UK Biobank has been working on the study for 11 years. The BBC's Jim Reid has more.
The billion images it's created can be accessed at low cost by thousands of scientists. The scans are anonymised and volunteers receive no feedback unless a potentially serious health problem is spotted. They can be combined with DNA and other data to identify disease at an early stage and work out how best to prevent or treat it. Already it's been shown, for example, that drinking small amounts of alcohol each day can be linked to memory loss and dementia, and that a standard MRI scan can replace surgery to monitor liver disease.
Recapping the top story, organisers of the hashtag Hands Off Mkhwanazi March are demanding the protection of KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. I am Ondolambana for SAFM News Headlines at 11:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Hey, halala, halala, halala. Hey, halala, South Africa. Hey, halala, halala, halala.
Hi, my name is Andile Dlamini, goalkeeper of Mamelodi Sundowns and Banyana Banyana. If I received 10 million to stop being a goalkeeper and become a boxer, no, I don't think I would do it. Flying the flag high is something that I carry in my heart. What do I like about SABC Sport? It caters for all, rich and poor.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
SABC News turns 75 on July the 17th, 2025.
Since the dawn of democracy, SABC News has grown into your trusted source for news and current affairs, shaping our nation and the world for the past 75 years. From July 12th to the 17th, SAFM Current Affairs presents exclusive interviews with iconic presenters, producers, and news leaders.
We're exploring the legacy of SABC News, highlighting the voices that have defined our story.
Join SAFM for a week of compelling reports and unforgettable moments. SABC News at 75.
Independent and impartial.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
See, this thing of what is mine is yours, what is yours, it's mine, makes me so nar. So nar. So nar. What I've worked hard for, it's not yours. And what you've worked hard for, it's not mine. Makes me so nar. Upsets my stomach.
Cathy, they say crime doesn't pay, but with ANC, it's opposite. Crime does pay. Corruption with impunity. Skosana here.
Good morning, Cathy and your team. The problem with us as South Africans, we want quick fixes. We are panicking now because of the commission. But the president took the best decision ever, because the commission is going to root out all this corruption in the police. The quick fix we just need the minister be fired, and then the corruption continues. Those who have not been unmasked. As for MK and Umnoto Aban, those who are protesting today, they are just protecting President Zuma, because all the corruption in this country has his footprints. He's the one who unleashed the corruption.
Morning, Katie. Mcete here in Kala. Sis Katie, concerning the long-awaited address of the nation by President on Sunday, we see no seriousness it made in dealing with the sensitivity of the allegations made by Mr. Mkhwanazi. The President seems not to care about the impact of the drugs dealings in our youth, except showing how biased he is. Recently, he expelled another party minister for just traveling abroad without his authorization. But now, these accusations, as serious as they are, he just expanded misuse of our tax by employing another minister, which implies double salaries now, which are unnecessary. Sis Katie, the public funds are being misused here by the comrades. Maybe they know about the cartel. We waited patiently for the address only to hear this irrelevant, monotonous speech from the president. Thanks, Katie Mcete in Kala.
Good morning, Cathy and SAFM listeners. I'm Sfido in Guatemala. People shouldn't fool themselves. Ramaphosa is not afraid of being recalled. Remember, Ramaphosa, he doesn't necessarily need this job of being a president of this country because he has his own monies. Here is the same man who was prepared to resign before the ANC's elective conference, but he had to be backed by some ANC members. And even if that motion of no confidence against him could be submitted, it wouldn't pass because there will be no enough members who are voting against him. The country needs Ramaphosa at this moment. Who else can replace Ramaphosa at this moment? Thank you.
Also, about that lady Ignacio that called in and told you about the help that she tries to give to abused children and that sort of thing, and how these NGOs are basically taking everybody for a ride and are just as abusive. Yeah, it's shocking. I didn't even think that was going on top of everything else. Surely we should be talking about setting up some sort of network of oversight of these NGOs where people investigate them and make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I don't know where that would come from, if government should set it up, and what it would cost. But to me, if we're going to spend money on anything, we need to spend it on the children.
Cathy Mohlahlana on SAFM.
They all believe they will be crowned champions, but gold medallions are reserved for the best of them all. It is the incredible clash of the 12 African women's national teams. Catch all the 24 matches of the Cap Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 450-gram Bokoma Wheat Bix original only for $27.99 and save R9. Or 1 liter liquid fruit for just $26.99. Save R11. Plus, you could win your share of R6 million in instant cash. Price is valid until 21 July 2025. While stocks last. T's and C's apply.
The National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
What is your take on what was said?
I support Dr. Letabe wholeheartedly. And very funny today, or let me put it this way, everybody who gets their salary from the fiscus, that means from the public service, they are entitled to subsidies on their medical aid to use private hospitals. And that subsidy is 70 billion rand, starting with the president. If there's a policy that they must all use public hospitals, that 70 billion will immediately accrue to the public hospitals and will be able to improve them. If I can tell you what I can do with 70 billion rand, you'll understand exactly why I'm agreeing.
Minister Aaron Matsoleni.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
#SAFM Talking Point.
Well, you're still listening to The Talking Point as we lead conversations that move us. For this final segment of the show, we're in conversation with the Free State MEC for Education. This is Dr. Mantlage Maboya. We're looking at the province's performance in as far as its education results are concerned, but also a newly launched multi-certification program, which they say is to equip learners with diverse skills and certificates as they then leave the schooling era of their lives. Dr. Maboya, good morning to you. Thanks for your time this morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to your listeners across the country. Thank you for having me on the Talking Point.
It's a pleasure, ma'am. I think a good point for us to start would be to acknowledge really what has been the obvious for a number of years now. The performance of the Free State in as far as its matric results are concerned show that there has been an incredible amount of effort over a number of years to not only improve education, whether at a foundation or senior level, within the province, to the extent that you're now showing the results that you do. Because it's not fluctuating, it suggests that, this is not something that is happening by chance or by incident, but there's something that systematically has changed in how the province is doing things that has elevated it from where it was, which wasn't always necessarily number 1 and 2, to where it now sits and seems to, be holding that position quite consistently so.
Yeah, you are quite correct, Cathy. We have been doing quite well in terms of matric results. But what we are currently doing in terms of our intervention is to ensure that we really fix the system. In my inaugural budget speech, I did make a very bold statement to say that I am not the MEC for matric, but I'm the MEC responsible for the entire schooling system. So that is why we then said as the department, can we look at the whole system, because that's what we need to fix. You would also understand that our matric results come quite at the end of the schooling system. So we needed, therefore, to say, how do we then fix the whole system? Because much as we are being hailed as the number one province, we know definitely that there are some gaps in the system. For instance, when you talk about our performance and our position as number one, it's mainly because of the quantity of learners or the number of learners that we make to pass. So those results that you are talking about are quite quantitative. And we use data from the matric results to then analyze and say, where else are the gaps? Because the main thing that we also want to promote is the issue of quality. We would want to improve the quality of our results and ensure that when our learners go out of the schooling system, they do not struggle to get into universities to be accepted, because even at universities, remember, learners have to compete for places there, especially in your what you call, your lucrative careers. So we are saying that definitely we have to look at the whole system if we want to close the gaps. So what we have done recently is to say, let us not only analyze matric results, let's also analyze other results that affect lower grades. Cathy and your listeners, you would appreciate the fact that much as we are looking at the matric results as the indicator of the performance of the system, but there are other international studies or international assessments that we participate in. There's one that is called TEAM, Strength in International Maths and Science Studies. Our grade 5 and 9 learners do participate in those assessments, and they participate in terms of mathematics and science. And in those studies or assessments, clearly the results show us that our learners are not doing well at all in terms of mathematics and science. But we also participate in another study, which is called the Progress in Reading Literacy, PEARLS, where our grade 4 learners are tested in terms of their reading proficiency. And the results that we have from the 2021 tests that were written show that almost 80% of our learners in the country, grade 4 learners, cannot read for meaning. So with us in the Free State, then we took this data and said, how do we use this data to improve the system? Not to improve matric results, but to improve the whole system. So that is why you are seeing the type of interventions or programs that we are busy running now. So in short, we are saying that there are gaps, obviously, in the lower grades, especially in your intermediate phase, that is from grade 4 up to grade 6. There are still challenges then. There are also challenges in terms of your grade 8 and 9, because clearly, if your learners in grade 4 cannot read for meaning, you wouldn't expect them to do better, even in matric. So we are saying that our approach should be a systems approach where we are tackling the whole system. Now, Cathy, if should outline.
So, Dr. Mabwe, just before you go on there, in trying then to address some of these gaps, what do you identify as the most important point of intervention? And I ask the question in that way because we are often told about how government has finite resources, which is true, right? Because there's only so much that can be done. Even if everything was working, efficiently, there was zero corruption, etc., there would only be so much money that can be used, that can be budgeted towards certain, departments, line items, etc., So, which point, in as far as the areas of interventions are required, which point are you as the Free State specifically targeting as priority points for intervention, because you believe that if you're at least able to bring it in at that point, it will result in a different outcome for learners as they then continue with their schooling career right through to matric?
Yep, Cathy. I think with us, which is something that is also reflected in my budget speech, we are quite strong in terms of interventions around what you would call foundational learning. That is, in particular, we are looking at mathematics, we are looking at literacy, home languages, reading in particular is our concern. And the two areas would be foundational learning that I've just explained. The second one is to provide skills programs. And skills programs can be because we are aligning ourselves with the priorities of government, to say that if government says to us one of our key priorities is to grow an inclusive economy and to deal with issues of joblessness. So it is our responsibility as the schooling sector as well to make sure that we build the necessary skill sets that are needed by our economy. So we should not only leave that to higher education. It must start with us in the schooling system. So our focus, Cathy, is on foundational learning, as I've said, your maths, as well as your languages in those lower grades. But also when we get to upper grades, we are looking at the skills programs. And hence you saw us launching what you call a multi-certification program, which we launched yesterday.
Tell
so
us
these
more.
are the two major areas where we think that if we can really make deliberate and structured interventions then we'll be able to turn the corner.
Tell us more about the multi-certification program.
Well, Cathy, the multi-certification program is part of our Skills Revolution program. So you would know that in the schooling sector, we also have what you call technical high schools. So we also have, agricultural high schools and so on. So multi-certification would be part of that program of Skills Revolution. And I'll tell you that, as you are quite aware, there is this whole movement towards, industrialization in our country. So we are therefore very focused on making sure that we also drive this particular Skills Revolution program in our schooling system. So it's about, if you can go to my budget speech, you would see that we will be expanding the schools that are offering technical and vocational subjects. We will also be looking at expanding schools that are offering agricultural subjects. But over and above that, we are also talking about this multi-certification program. So what this multi-certification program is all about, it is simply saying that it is not fair for a child to spend 12 to 13 years of schooling, and at the end of the schooling system, should this child not even succeed, get a matric, this child will have nothing to show. Therefore, we are saying that it is about time we introduced this particular program so that each and every child, when they exit the schooling system, at least they should be having more than 2 certificates. So this is what your certification program is all about. We are saying there are short courses which are accredited that we would want to offer to our learners from grade 10 up to grade 12, so that they can be able to acquire more than 1 certificate. In this case, that would be your national senior certificate, should it happen that they pass it. And so that those who don't pass, at least they will also be having something to show. So that's basically what it is. So yesterday we are piloting this program, and yesterday we were launching that pilot. And what we had yesterday were 45 learners who are already doing grade 12, because we want them this year, when they exit matric, they should be having 2 certificates at least. But we know for a fact that there are others that are in our lineup. We are having other skills programs that we are going to offer, short courses in agriculture, where about 450 of our learners will be part of the program. We also have another one in terms of our ICT sector, where we will be also offering learners a number of accredited courses. In fact, Cathy, added to this, to support this initiative of ours, on the 31st of July, we will be opening what we call a Smart Skills Center. That Smart Skills Center we are in partnership with Chieta, your chemical CETA, where Chemical CETA and ourselves will be opening that type of a center. Now, this center, which I'm talking about, which is a Smart Skills Center, amongst other programs that we'll be offering there, we will be offering online courses.
All right. All right.
So online courses, short courses, where our learners will be able, therefore, to tap into and get the necessary qualification and certificates.
Okay.
In that regard. So we are also
Dr. Maboya, we're going to continue with this conversation shortly. She's the Free State MEC for Education. It's now 11:30. Here are your headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines, organisers of the hashtag Hands Off Mkhwanazi March are demanding the protection of KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Communications and Digital Technologies Minister Solly Malatsi has noted concerns about the SABC's financial sustainability, and Deputy President Paul Mashatile has arrived in China for a working visit. It is on invitation of the China Council for the Promotion of International Trade. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
It's all about fresh fish and vibrant flavors on the Tastemaster SA this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2 as our top 4 visit the Hout Bay Harbour for a crash course in seafood the old school way. Then reel in a gourmet seafood takeaway experience of their own. Who will sink and who will swim into the semi-finals? The Tastemaster SA, Tuesday evenings at 7:30, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
You are listening to SAFM Radio this Mandela Month.
It is in your hands now.
Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
You're listening to The Talking Point. We're in conversation with the Free State MEC for Education, Dr. Cathy Mohlahlana. We're speaking about some of the interventions in that province when it comes to the education sector. And this is, really the ways in which the department is trying to ensure that they get maximum value in as far as the youngsters that are in their schools and equipping them with the knowledge, with the skills that they will need beyond it. And the Free State, of course, again, being the best performing province in the country for a couple of years now. Yes, that could well also be as a result of the number of learners that sit to take the exam at the end of the year, but undoubtedly still something that deserves the due recognition. So, Dr. Mohlahlana, you were telling us about the multi-certification program and the fact that you're now aiming to have every learner that leaves school to not only leave with a matric certificate, but also to leave with a skills certificate. You have outlined the some of the sectors where you have your TVET colleges, so your agriculture, some of your technical, vocational skills, etc. So when it comes to mainstream schools, how are you bringing these certification programs into that? Because I imagine it's, of course, easier to offer multiple certificates if you have already a school that is technical by nature, specialized by nature. It's sort of already built to deliver on both, whereas a mainstream school that doesn't offer agriculture might need to change a couple of things to enable learners to run short courses effectively on agriculture. So how are you doing that?
Yeah, thank you very much, Cathy. You are quite correct to say that when it comes to this program, we align our program with schools that are already, offering some of these programs. But in the schools where, for instance, they do not necessarily specialize, but you would notice that in some of the subjects that they are doing, much as they're not specializing, but if we have learners who are doing CAT, for instance, as a subject, and we can also offer them your communications and ICT, skills, so that they can have those certificates in terms of your cybersecurity, data analytics, all those that are more inclined to ICT. And not only that, that's why we are talking about expansion of such schools, so that we want to make sure that we have as many schools as possible that are specializing in your technical and vocational, in your ICT, in your aviation, and so on. So that is also in my speech to say that by the end of my 5th year, we should have really made quite significant strides in that regard. But it doesn't mean that if learners are in a school that is not a school that specializes, and those learners will not get this or will not benefit from this program, they will also benefit. There are a lot of things that we are all skills or type of courses that we are going to offer, and definitely they will. Cathy, this will also include what you call your soft skills. That we think that our learners also need. So those who are from schools that are not necessarily specializing might also benefit from those soft skills that we want to offer courses in.
All right. I'm also going to bring in then some of our listeners who want to engage with you on these issues. Dindwe, you're calling us from Tabanchu. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to ladies. Well, I've got a question that to say that my question is to the MEC. We are happy that now we seen that we must go back to the schools that specializes in certain courses. But my question is, because now specialization in teachers' colleges or have been suspended or done away with, are we going to have teachers that will be specializing in those subjects that you are bringing back? And the other thing is, we are having so many kids that are not working. But if we kept that technical schools that we have in the olden days, I'm sure we could not be having this problem. But my interest is that, are we having teachers that are going to take those learners through those specialization courses when we are reintroducing them, MEC?
Dr. Maboya?
Thank you very much, Cathy, the Date from Tabanchu. Thank you very much for your questions. Of course, if we want to introduce specializations in our schools, we would also need teachers who will be able to offer these. But remember, we are, especially on this one of multi-certification, we are very strong on partnerships. We are working with industry to make sure that they are able to offer us this. And we also don't want to increase the workload of our teachers. So this particular program in particular would fall under what we call extracurricular programs. So they are programs that are offered outside your timetable. So for teachers who are already there, we are not going to necessarily use them for this one of multi-certification because we don't want to give them, the extra burden. But on the issue of specialization, like I said, that we want to increase the number of these schools that are offering your technical subjects, offering your ICT subjects, offering your agricultural subjects. Of course, we are going to make sure that our teachers are ready for that. We have a program where we are saying we want to reskill our teachers because teachers also need to diversify, in terms of their offerings. So there are a lot of teachers who are willing to actually diversify and be reskilled so that they can be able to offer this subject. Yes, indeed, in that day, definitely we'll make sure that not only our learners are future ready, we also need to make sure that even our teachers are future ready.
All right, let me bring in our other listeners.
Cathy, a quick one here. Can you please ask the minister when she talks about the kids' inability to read for understanding, what is it that they're struggling with? Are they struggling with reading English or their mother tongue? Because I'm of the opinion that what hinders progress in our schools is the fact that majority black kids, which might be that 80%, are taught in English, which is not their mother tongue, and that really affects even their understanding of mathematics and physical science. I think there were studies also done on that issue, that you look at Afrikaner kids who are studying Afrikaans, how they're doing in school, English kids, the same thing. So why aren't they putting an effort to make sure that the black South African kids also study in their mother tongue, so that all the evaluations that are done on the equal and fair basis? Because you can never judge a person who's studying everything in the mother tongue against a person who has to do 2 to 3 languages. Thank you. It's important for you.
Good morning, Cathy. I think the MEC is right. The only challenge is that the issue of multi-certificate. It's a very good thing that has been there since the apartheid regime. The only problem is that when the ANC government take over, they did not do proper assessment of which one is right, which one is wrong. So what is she saying? It is the repeat of the previous government's initiative. The only thing that I'm applauding with is just that I'm very grateful that they are now considering that it is the only thing rather than just leaving it forever. Thank you very much, LMT Matlosana.
All right. Dr. Maboya, let me give you a chance to respond to some of those messages so far.
Yeah, thank you, Cathy. I think the second listener is quite spot on the issue of reading and on the issue of the language of teaching, learning, and assessment. So the study that I referred to, where we are saying our learners cannot read for meaning, was actually done in their mother tongue. So it means in their own mother tongue, they were found to be, wanting when it comes to reading for meaning. But added to this, Cathy, we recently launched what we call mother tongue-based bilingual education in the province. That was on the 30th of June this year. So in this one, what we are doing, we are promoting what Ndade is talking about. We are promoting the teaching, learning, and assessment of our learners in their own mother tongue. So meaning that in terms of the Free State, where predominantly we are a Sotho-speaking, province. So meaning that we will see our learners from grade 4 upwards, up to grade 6 for now, being taught in Sesotho and being assessed in Sesotho as well. So in the subject, maths and science for now, because we will then, with time, will be increasing the subjects in which we are teaching in mother tongue. So the issue of mother tongue, the issue of bilingual education actually is in what we are calling our language in education policy of 1997, if I'm not mistaken. So we have not been implementing it. But due to now us focusing on this mother tongue-based bilingual education, we'll be able then to implement those provisions of the language in education policy. In actual fact, the language in education policy is actually saying to us, we must delay the teaching of our learners through a foreign language until the 6th year, at least. So meaning that when the kids go to school from grade 1 up to 6, at least they should be taught in their mother tongue. So this has long been there. It's only now that we are implementing it. And this will also strengthen, it's a way of strengthening the Bella Act, because the Bella Act in terms of your Section 5, which is about language policy, will also be focusing on that as well. Now the second one, I think the second listener, I didn't get the first part, but we appreciate the fact that he is commending the province for what we are doing in terms of the programs that we are offering, in particular multi-certification program.
All right. Let's see the time. Okay. I think we've come to the end of the conversation, because it's now edging towards when I have to start closing off the show. Dr. Maboya, let me thank you so much for your time. For our listeners that are still sending through their questions, unfortunately, this is where we're going to have to leave it. And all of the best with the programs and interventions that you are working on in your province. Dr. Mantlage Maboya, Free State MEC for Education. And that brings us to the end of the show for this Tuesday. Of course, we are back with you again tomorrow between 9 and midday.
Join us for this year's fundraiser, Jazz for Young People concert at the National School of the Arts on the 26th of July. This unique event, perfect for families, is a powerful celebration of youth, creativity, and community spirit. So bring the whole family to enjoy a wonderful day of world-class jazz curated by Zoe Mudicha, featuring the Parktown Girls Band, Tshwane School of Music, The Real DJ Zandi, Kutlotaro Jazz Band, and many others. Tickets are just 80 Rand and 50 Rand for kids under 12 via Quicket. Jazz for Young People is proudly brought to you by Standard Bank Joy of Jazz.
Hi, my name is Andile Dlamini, goalkeeper of Mamelodi Sundowns and Banyana Banyana. If I received 10 million to stop being a goalkeeper and become a boxer, no, I don't think I would do it. Flying the flag high is something that I carry in my heart. What do I like about SABC Sport? It caters for all, rich and poor.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Play for the win with the Powerball jackpot estimated at 71 million rand this Tuesday. That's right, 6 lucky numbers is all it takes for your chance to make your dreams become a reality. Don't get left behind. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529 hash for USSD. Panda Push Up Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Cathy Mohlahlana on SAFM.
SFM's award-winning drama department presents another episode of the book, A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Motswenyane. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised.
At its inception, NAFCOC was called NACOC, the National African Chamber of Commerce. The name changed to NAFCOC in 1972 when the organization replaced provincial branches with regional formations. Mr. Richard Maponya was the first president of NACOC. After my presentation, I was asked to serve as a member of the executive. I've always felt as if I came into the chamber via the back door. I nevertheless was accepted as a member of the business community and served on the executive from day one. It was during discussions at that conference that the idea of an African bank first came up. Leadership role at NAFCOC. After the inaugural conference of NAFCOC in Orlando East in 1964, the first annual conference of the new organization took place in 1965 at the Bolton Hall in Durban. What was most interesting about the conference, which was organized by Mr. Bigfal Masekela as National Secretary and Mr. Richard Maponya as President, was the fact that we had in attendance such luminaries as Dr. W.F. Nkomo, who came from Lady Selborne in Pretoria to address us. He traveled to the conference by air, which was so rare in those days, it was announced at the conference. Soon after the inaugural conference, Mr. Bigfal Masekela regrettably fell ill and later died. He, as the founding father of NACOC, knew so much about the fledgling organization that at his deathbed, the executive anxiously gathered just to get a final briefing from him. Let him not disappear with all that wealth of information that he had assembled about the organization, said some of us. Sadly, only 1 year after the birth of the organization, which he had been largely instrumental in establishing, we lost Bigfal Masekela, a dedicated fighter and a truly enthusiastic worker for NACOC. After Mr. Masekela's death, the executive relied more and more on my inputs, and I was pushed further to the forefront of the leadership. In the run-up to the second annual national conference of the Chamber to be held in Bloemfontein in 1966, I was operating from Lusikisiki, where I had been invited by Bishop Reverend A. Zulu of the Anglican Diocese of St. John's in Umtata to visit the mission farm at St. Andrew's Mission. The mission had a lot of land that was lying idle, and the church was interested in getting it to operate to the fullest benefit of its members who lived there. With my experience in ANSCA and subsequent training in agriculture, Reverend Zulu knew that I might have something worthwhile to contribute. I was invited to live for a while at the mission and asked to train the people on how to use the land more productively so as to benefit optimally from it. While I was in Lusikisiki, Mr. Maponya needed my assistance in preparing his presidential address for the conference. It is, of course, standard practice for senior leaders to have speechwriters helping them with their formal presentations. I accordingly undertook to write the address for him and made copies for him from Lusikisiki. We had agreed that he would arrive in Bloemfontein 3 days before the conference so as to enable him to go through the speech and familiarize himself with it. He was delayed and only arrived at the conference venue the night before its commencement. When he began to deliver the speech, it became quite obvious that he was not familiar with the content. Mr. Maponya was consequently outvoted and lost his position as president of NACOC. It later transpired that the real reason why Mr. Maponya lost his leadership position was the fact that the Zululand branch of the chamber under Mr. S.C. Kongo had strongly organized themselves to take over the position. When Mr. Maponya started his presidential address, having not thoroughly familiarized himself with the written text, I could hear whispers from the back of this group to the effect that the voice was Jacob's, but the skin was Esau's. This quotation comes from the Bible where Isaac, who was blind, wanted to bless Esau, his oldest son, before he died. The younger brother Jacob pretended to be the hairy Esau by covering himself with sheepskin and took the blessings from the father instead. Isaac felt the skin on Jacob's body and said, "The skin is Esau's, but the voice is Jacob's." In other words, it was believed by some members that the president's address was not his own ideas and that Mr. Maponya was articulating someone else's thoughts. When it came to voting, Mr. Maponya was completely outvoted and did not even make it onto the executive. Mr. Maponya's successor as the second president of NACOC was Mr. S.Z. Kongo, a businessman from KwaMashu in Durban. In 1967, Mr. Kongo presided over the third conference of NACOC held in Gugulethu, Cape Town, in his capacity as president. He held that position for a period of 2 years, but was not very popular as he did not convene regular meetings of the executive as required by the constitution of the organization. I remember a time when members of the executive decided in protest to invoke a clause in the Constitution which allowed any 3 members of the executive to convene a meeting if the president failed to convene meetings. The members of the executive used that clause to convene a meeting where arrangements for the 4th NACOC conference to be held in Ga-Rankuwa in 1968 were discussed and finalized. Mr. Kongo was compelled to come to the meeting and preside. This was one of the factors that undermined his position as president of NACOC. As a member of the NACOC Executive Committee since its inauguration in 1964, I was also assigned the task to producing a monthly newsletter called The African Trader, which was started in 1967. Increasingly, my time was taken up with writing articles for the African Trader, and in trying to get advertising for the newsletter to be printed, I eventually failed to secure sufficient adverts because white business at that time did not fully appreciate the future potential of black business. They generally thought that to advertise in the African Trader was a waste of money as it would never yield beneficial returns. Eventually, the publication had to be abandoned due to a lack of funds. Prior to my election as president of NACOC at the organization's 4th annual conference held at Garankuwa in November 1968, I think a grave mistake was made to invite the then Minister of Bantu Affairs, Mr. M.C. Botha, to speak at the conference. When he arrived at the conference, he must have been unpleasantly surprised to find members of different ethnic groups, including chiefs, participating together without any conflict. He saw people such as Chief T.R. Pilani and others speaking at the conference and realized that this was contrary to the government's policy of separate development. During his presentation, he conveyed the idea that the government would prefer to work with an organization that was operating more in line with the government's policy, although he did not elaborate much on that issue. 3 weeks after the conference, I received a letter from Minister Botha inviting NACOC to meet with his deputy, Dr. Pete Korenhoff. When our delegation met with Dr. Korenhoff, he told us that it was the desire of the government to persuade NACOC to reorganize itself along ethnic lines in conformity with the existing policy of separate development. I recall that the same policy requirements were imposed on ANSCA by the same minister 10 years earlier. The NACOC delegation told Dr. Korenhoff that they did not have a mandate to take a decision without consulting our constituency. We told him that we could only respond after meeting with our members and requested time to do so.
That was another episode of the book, A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Motswenyane. The book is available online on www.kmmr.co.za, KMMR Publishers, and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursday on The Talking Point. It is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Samson Kumalo. Technical production, Wiseman Manele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuruma.
O'clock on Tuesday, the 15th of July, 2025. A very warm welcome to Update at Noon here on SAFM. Leading the conversation, I'm Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up in the next hour.
We're representing quite a few security companies, and we back General Mkonazi 100%. We're tired of the corruption in this country. We strongly believe that our country doesn't have a racism problem. Our country's got a corruption problem.
Security companies and civil society groups have come out in numbers to show support for KZN Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and...
And when it comes to us, they give us a less money, which when we check, Uber is taking 45 to 50% commission. So that's the only thing that we, the drivers, we are crying for. We're not crying for a lot of things from Uber. We are saying they must decrease their commission to 25%.
E-hailing drivers say that they're being ripped off for using the travel app. Now, coming up in sport.
Banyana cruise into the quarterfinals of the Women's AFCON, and the Proteas prepare for their match against New Zealand in Zimbabwe.
John Kiriko, those details later on in the show. In the meantime, let us know what's on your mind. Please share your views with us. 41391 is the SMS line number. It's charged at R1.50 per SMS. You can also write to us via X, our handle at SABC News_radio, or send us a WhatsApp voice note on 082-692-3909. Well, these and more stories coming up on this Tuesday edition of Update at Noon. First, though, here's the latest news with Ondela Mbana.
Thank Thank you, Sakina. On the top stories, police monitor the hashtag Hands Off Mkhwanazi march, and Mashatile arrives in China for a working visit. For SAFM News, I am Ondi Lambana, and a very good day. Police are closely monitoring hundreds of people from different groups and organizations who have joined the hashtag Hands Off Mkhwanazi march in Durban. The action is in support of KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi after he implicated senior police officials, including Minister Senzo Mchunu, in corruption and having ties with criminal syndicates. The march, which started at Curry's Fountain Sports Ground this morning, will end at Holy Park, where a memorandum will be handed to officials at the Durban Central Police Station. These march participants express their views.
While we're obviously in support of anybody who wants righteousness and honesty in our government, that is the essence of why I'm here, to show solidarity with righteousness in our government, because it doesn't really matter what title or what colors or what flag or what you dance to. If there's no righteousness there, then it's just going to be more of the same. We've had more of the same, and I don't see parties around that aren't more of the same. The corruption is there, and it's time the people are saying, we've had enough.
And it's important for us for people to understand that to support General Mkhwanazi is extremely important, because he's doing what needs to be done.
The Electoral Commission says it faced an unprecedented number of court challenges in 2024. It says these cases were in relation to last year's general elections. IEC Chairperson Mosotho Moebia told Parliament's Home Affairs Committee that of the 80 court applications made, it won 78 and 2 are currently under appeal. The IEC is briefing the committee today on its performance in the 2024 national and provincial elections. Moebia also made it clear that no decision has been made around e-voting for the 2026 election. Communications and Digital Technologies Minister Solly Malatsi has noted concerns about the SABC's financial sustainability. He has admitted that the public broadcaster remains underfunded. Malatsi has announced that the SABC will receive 704 million rand in the medium-term expenditure framework. The minister has urged key stakeholders to play their role in safeguarding the future of the public broadcaster.
It's going to take a series of actions from different players. Us, as the department and the ministry being the shareholders, is to provide the support for the SABC in engagements with National Treasury and to be able to persuade our colleagues about the mere fact. One of the things, for instance, is that next year we'll be having an election. All the political parties will have an expectation of being covered equitably. And to do that and to pull it off, we're going to need thorough resources.
Police are investigating an attempted murder case after a 36-year-old man was shot and wounded during a protest in Kimberley in the Northern Cape yesterday. Residents have accused police of using live ammunition during the protest that was meant to shut down the town. 7 people were arrested for allegedly blockading the N8 near the Kimberley airport. Police spokesperson Cheryl Elas says the suspect will appear in the Kimberley Magistrates Court today.
Police in Kimberley are investigating a case of attempted murder after a 36-year-old male was allegedly injured in his back and stomach during a protest in Kimberley near the N8 in Greenpoint on Monday the 14th of July. The investigation is continuing.
Deputy President Paul Mashatile has arrived in China for a working visit. It is on invitation of the China Council for the Promotion of International Trade. Mashatile is also scheduled to launch the South African National Pavilion at the China International Supply Chain Expo. The expo is dedicated to global supply chains. Kylie Khumalo has more.
This visit presents a significant opportunity to advance the South Africa-China all-round strategic cooperative partnership in the new era. It also reinforces South Africa's position as a gateway to sub-Saharan Africa for trade, investment and industrial cooperation. Deputy President Mashatile will also hold a bilateral meeting with his Chinese counterpart, Han Zhang. The Deputy President is set to meet with China State Construction, Engineering Corporation, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China in partnership with Standard Bank, and the Beijing Automotive International Corporation. He's accompanied by a number of cabinet ministers. Kylie Khumalo, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Recapping the top story, police are closely monitoring hundreds of people from different groups and organizations who have joined the hashtag Hands Off Mkhwanazi march in Durban. I'm Ondelambana for SFM News Headlines at 12:30.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo.
7 minutes after 12. Thank you so much for tuning in to Update at Noon, everybody, and welcome to it. And Ondela, as she indicated, will be back at the bottom of the hour with your latest news headlines. Some interesting stories that we are watching this afternoon, hoping to bring you updates on. So currently on my TV screen, just watching this march in support of Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. It's taking place in Durban, and it has been dubbed hashtag Hands Off Mkhwanazi, and the march is being organized in support of the Provincial Police Commissioner following his explosive claims and perceived political attacks against him. Now, organizers and supporters of this march say that they view Mkhwanazi as a whistleblower who needs protection, and therefore this march aims to demand accountability and action from government regarding the allegations that were raised by General Mkhwanazi. So we do have our reporters who are also on that march, listening, observing, and of course speaking to some of the marchers there. And hopefully we'll catch up with our reporter Fanele in a short while. And then some of the other stories, the South African Police Service, an important communication expected from the SAPS National Office today. And we are, of course, monitoring that and looking at what the possible outcomes and implications of it might be. And also the Minister in the Presidency responsible for state security, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, is to deliver the department's budget vote. And this, of course, coming at a time when issues of security matters are in the spotlight following that explosive media briefing by the KZN Provincial Commissioner. And we've got Zaline Merrington on that story. The Mpumalanga Premier Madla Ndlovu called an urgent press briefing earlier on and, of course, announced some interesting changes there. So we'll see how much of that we can bring you up to speed with. And we also have a march by e-hailing drivers, and they gathered in Cromerville, north of Johannesburg, and then started that march to the Uber headquarters in Parktown. And the operators say that they are unhappy about a number of work-related issues, including alleged changes to Uber's commission percentages and the unprofitable nature of these trip prices. Sasha Naidu is on that story. And then, of course, the Independent Electoral Commission, they briefed the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs in Parliament about the 2024 national and provincial election report. Some interesting points being raised there. And of course, as I had indicated, all of this week we are celebrating 75 years of SABC News. Spoke to John Perlman yesterday. Ike Patla coming up today as we go down memory lane and we celebrate 75 years of SABC News.
My name is Dino Makakula, the goalkeeper for Banyana. I like cooking stew and pap, a bit of dessert, which is scones. What will I say to the loyal fans? We acknowledge your support and we appreciate you being with us each and every step of the way. Please keep on supporting, keep on working with us in this journey that we took as individuals and as a team. We appreciate it. We are the champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
SAFM, in collaboration with the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz, brings you the Jazz for Young People concert happening at the National School of the Arts on the 26th of July 2025. Tune in to Seasons and the soundtrack of your life. broadcasting live. This unique event is a powerful celebration of youth, creativity, and community spirit. Bring the whole family to enjoy a wonderful day of world-class jazz from young musicians, curated by Zoe Mudicha, featuring National School of the Arts Band, Willow Crescent Magnet School of Music Band, Biko's Manor, and many others. Have fun while doing good. Tickets are available at Quicket for just 80 Rand and 50 Rand for kids under 12. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
SABC News turns 75 on July the 17th, 2025.
Since the dawn of democracy, SABC News has grown into your trusted source for news and current affairs, shaping our nation and the world for the past 75 years.
From July 12th to the 17th, SAFM Current Affairs presents exclusive interviews with iconic presenters, producers, and news leaders.
We're exploring the legacy of SABC News, highlighting the voices that have defined our story.
Join SAFM for a week of compelling reports and unforgettable moments.
SABC News at 75.
Independent and impartial. There and everywhere. SAFM 106.2 FM in Table Mountain. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m.
Now, organizers of the hashtag Hands Off Mkhwanazi March are demanding the protection of the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Scores of residents, groups of some political parties are participating in this march in support of Mkhwanazi. Now, reporter Simpiwe Makanya earlier caught up with some of the individuals participating in the march.
Hi, I'm Wesley Renica. We are part of this march today. We come from Yin Yang Tactical. It's a group of different security companies. We've got ET, we've got TRSS. We're representing quite a few security companies, and we back General Mkhwanazi 100%. We're tired of the corruption in this country. We strongly believe that our country doesn't have a racism problem. Our country's got a corruption problem, and we need to get rid of that corruption. So we stand strong behind him, and we'll fight all the way to do what's right.
On Sunday, President Ramaphosa announced the establishment of a commission of inquiry to probe the very allegations that Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi revealed on Sunday. Are you not satisfied with that particular announcement?
Not really satisfied. Let me tell you something. We work very close with the police force as well. We're on the ground. We are here to protect the communities as well. And let me tell you, he would have never made those allegations without having the backing behind him. He's been doing this for a long time. We strongly believe that he's definitely got all the evidence that's needed. So I think this thing needs to be taken a lot more seriously, and I believe that we need to stand together and actually fight to get the corruption gone.
The decision to place the Minister of Police on special leave, what is your reaction to that?
I think that he shouldn't be placed on special leave. I think they should have suspended him. I believe that they need to do this court hearings a lot quicker. Mr. Mkhwanazi is sitting with all the evidence that's needed. He's already said that he's got everything. So I believe that they need to push these matters a lot quicker and let's get these court hearings seen to.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, Ayanda. These are just some of the residents who have joined this particular march. I'm going to speak to one more gentleman, Ayanda, before we go back to you in studio. Sir, thank you so much for your time. Why is it so important for people who are in the private security industry to be part of this march here today?
Firstly, I mean, like Wesley says, we work closely with the SAPS, and I mean, if you're not going to back the man who is fighting for his country, then it's pointless you being here. I mean, he's the only man taking it head on, and unfortunately, the higher up superiors are trying to, how can I say, they're trying to silence him, and it's not right. Us as a country, if we stand together with him, we can all make the word out there.
And those were voices of some of the individuals participating in that march in support of the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. And we, of course, have our reporter, Fanele Mhlongo, also on that march. So let's catch up with Fanele. Fanele, good afternoon. So where exactly is that march currently, and what are people saying?
Sakina, good afternoon. The march is now moving along the road that is joining from the N3. Now we are moving towards the CBD. We are driving through Ali Street. That's where the march is right now, and it's going towards Hoy Park, and that's where it's expected that the marchers, they will be handing over their memorandum. Majority of the people who are here are saying this. They decided to come and join this march in support of Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, because they believe that what he is doing, he is fighting against crime, which has been affecting all community members in KwaZulu-Natal. And also, Sakina, what we've noticed is that the march that is taking place today, it has not only attracted attention from one racial group, which is the Black South Africans, who are normally on the streets protesting and marching, but today we've seen people from different racial groups coming together in one voice, saying that hands off from Mkhwanazi, and they are also saying that they are against the establishment of the Commission of Inquiry that has been established by President to investigate the allegations that were made by Mkhwanazi.
So if they are against the establishment of the Commission of Inquiry, what are they saying? What would they have rather liked to see, Fanele?
They are saying that they wanted to see the president suspending police minister Senzo Mchunu, and then ensuring that he is prosecuted for the allegations that have been leveled against him, or rather he is investigated for those allegations, instead of him being suspended and still enjoying all the benefits as the minister.
Fanele, just out of curiosity, from the time that this march started to where it is now, is it just the same group of people marching along, or are others joining in along the way?
The march started at Carus Fountain at around 11, and it's moving very slowly. If we see that now it's just after 12, but we've only walked a distance that is less than 2 kilometers. We've seen some people joining along the way. As we are now moving towards the SABC, there are people that you are meeting along the roads, and somewhere who are that you see that they were just going to town, but now that they're seeing the march, they are joining. They are all now moving towards Hoy Park.
And with regard to who's to receive the memorandum of understanding, has there been any indication?
We've been told that it is Police Commissioner Fanny Mosumula that will be receiving the memorandum, but that will only be confirmed when we get to Hoy Park and we see who exactly they'll be heading over their memorandum.
Fanele, has Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi made any public appearances since the allegation against the former minister, the minister on special leave, Senzo Mchunu?
We have not yet seen General Mkhwanazi on the ground. On Friday, there was a raid that was attended by KwaZulu-Natal Premier Uthamintuli. That's where we had been told that he will be joining that raid. You can imagine the number of journalists that came in numbers with the hope that they were going to see Mkhwanazi and then pose some of the questions. But again, we have not yet seen him. We're not sure when he will be coming out or going on any operations. But what we heard on Friday was that he was out of the province. That's why he did not join that raid. Then we were told that he was having some meetings out of KwaZulu-Natal. We are yet to see when he will be going out on public again.
And just finally, any criminal charges that were laid by him, what are we aware of so far?
We have not received any. We have not yet received any updates in connection with those criminal charges, but we are playing by ear because we understand that there's a lot of developments that is going on around the allegations that he has made.
Fanele Mhlongo, thanks so much. Our reporter in Durban in KwaZulu-Natal. Of course, that march taking place there, it's being called the hashtag Hands Off Mkhwanazi March, and this is organized in support of Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, and we will let you know as soon as there's any further development on that march.
Update at noon, midday to 1 p.m.
Now, the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, says that social grant reviews are being undertaken on targeted beneficiaries suspected of having additional sources of income that was not initially disclosed to the agency. Now, the agency says that in April this year, it announced ongoing scheduled payment delays to targeted social grant beneficiaries who need to visit local offices in order to confirm changes in their financial circumstances, if any, and also to update their personal details to address potential inclusion errors in the current social security system. For more on this, we join on the line by SASSA spokesperson Paseka Letsatsi. Paseka, good afternoon. So, in simple terms, whose SASSA grants are you reviewing and why?
Good afternoon, Sakile, and thanks for having me. We are basically reviewing about 210,000 beneficiaries of SASSA out of 19 million beneficiaries which we pay every month. The reason why we're doing that is because there are two things which may have happened. One, the individuals may have presented wrong credentials when upon application. Two, the status of certain individuals may have changed while they were getting a grant. So it's incumbent upon themselves to notify the organization if they're not employed, and if their status changes, it is important for them to then make sure that they inform the organization.
Are you able to elaborate on the categories of grant recipients that are affected by this?
It is not only one category, but I think I must just clarify so that people don't get confused. These are your mainstream grants. It does not affect the 370 grants because that one we deal with it separately. We have checked the child support grants. Some of people who came to make an application, they then got employed. They did not inform us. We have also checked some of the old age grant. Some people have money which they are getting from their own businesses. And all that we are simply saying is that please make sure that when you present your credentials, make sure that they are correct. Let me just make an example, Sakina. Somebody comes to us, they say, I've got zero money in my account. I'm applying, I've got nothing that to fend for myself. And then they go to a bank to go and apply for a loan. And when they go and apply for a loan, they say, I'm earning about 50,000 rand a month. Can I get a loan of 10,000? So when we check, we find out the information we have and the information they presented to the bank do not talk to each other. So we are simply saying, be honest with us. Tell us that you are earning 50,000 rand a month. You've got a job. Yes, when you came to us, you were not employed, but the status has changed. Please let us know.
So in terms of people, the elderly who receive grants as a pension, those people, what is the threshold for them? Is it simply the grant that you as SASSA disburse to them? Are they allowed to have other income? Because one would imagine the cost of living is quite high and they would perhaps need to supplement or get some assistance from family members.
The threshold for an old age grant, Sakina, we've put it very high. It's 8,900 rand. So if you may be getting anything less than that, you can still come and make an application to SASSA. We will then definitely take you through the means test. And when we do the means test, we don't say you are earning 8,900 a month. We also know that there are certain things that you apply. You have to explain to them, to us, that you are paying for services, you are paying school fees and so forth. So we would subtract that and then calculate in terms of how much amount of money which is supposed to come to you. but we can say it is put at 8,900 rand a month. I think it was done deliberately so that it addresses what you raised earlier on in terms of the cost of living and so on.
And so looking at what is happening at the moment, you speak of a definite number, a finite number of 210,000 recipients that have been identified. How many of those have come forward since you've made this announcement?
A very small number of them came forward, Sakina. We have, I think, about 30,000 which came through to say, can you please remove me from the grant system, because I just have to make mention of the fact that currently we are still at the cordial stage. You come to us, you declare, and we remove you from the system. The second month we'll do the same thing, or the third month will then be left with no option but to stop it and stop it permanently. And once we escalate it, we would then have to make sure that we recoup the money from you. It will also have to include the law enforcement agencies. But I think I must just mention that we don't want to go there. We just want to have a cordial arrangement and engagement with the beneficiaries.
All right. That's where we'll leave it for now. We'll follow this story. Thanks so much, Paseka Letsatsi, who's the SASSA spokesperson, giving us some clarity in terms of what SASSA is doing. And of course, if you are one of those 210,000 people identified whose status may have changed from the time that you applied to receive a grant until now, you need to go and fix that. Otherwise, there will be repercussions.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m.
Now, Nigeria's late former President Muhammadu Buhari, who died in a London clinic on Sunday, aged 82, will be buried in his northern home state of Katsina today, and that's according to the state governor. Buhari, who's a former military ruler after a coup in the 1980s, returned to frontline politics to become the first Nigerian president to oust an incumbent through the ballot box in 2015. Now, he was re-elected for a second term 4 years later. Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima and government officials were in London on Monday to organize the repatriation of the former president's remains. Katsina State Governor Diko Umaro Rada said that after consultation with Buhari's family, it was agreed that the body would arrive in Nigeria on Tuesday for burial the same day in his hometown of Daura. And here's the latest Reuters news agency.
The death of former Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari has sparked a mix of emotions across the country, with few mourning his passing and many criticizing his policies and legacy.
We did not enjoy him. His regime was a total failure.
He ruled us for 8 years, and today is no more. So for me, it's life well spent.
Buhari led Africa's most populous country from 2015 to 2024. And was the first Nigerian president to oust an incumbent through the ballot box. He first led the country as a military ruler after a coup in the 1980s. Buhari said he aimed to improve the lives of Nigerians through social welfare programs, the construction of train lines, roads, dams, airports, and power infrastructure. His supporters viewed him as Nigeria's conscience, because he had a reputation for shunning the corruption and ostentatious lifestyles often associated with the country's political elites. In the capital, Abuja, this resident said people expected him to fight corruption when he came into office, but instead,
people saw more corruption during his tenure than they thought would have happened in any other administration.
Buhari died in London at aged 82 following a prolonged illness, a presidential spokesperson said. Nigerian State Governor Diko Umaro Rada said Buhari's body will arrive in Nigeria on Tuesday and be buried the same day in his hometown of Dara.
And that report by the Reuters news agency brings us to 12:30. Here's Ondelambana with your latest headline.
Thank you, Sakina. On the news headlines, the minister in the presidency responsible for state security, Kumbuzo Ntabeni, says efforts to fight organized crime are continuously being strengthened. She was delivering the department's budget vote in the National Assembly. Police are closely monitoring hundreds of people from different groups and organizations who have joined the hashtag Hands Off from Kwanazi March in Durban. And the African Union Commission chairperson Mahmoudi Ali Yusuf says Africa must find its voice in a fast-evolving international landscape. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
The rand is trading at 17 rand 81 to the US dollar, 23 rand 90 to the pound sterling, and 20 rand 79 to the euro. Markets in Asia mainly higher at this hour. Hong Kong's Hang Seng is 1.1% to the good. China's Shanghai index has dropped 0.4%. India's markets currently trading higher, while Japan's Nikkei gained 0.5% at the close of trade. The JSE has extended gains in early trade. The all-share index up 0.5% and is currently at 97,304. The Industrial 25 Index has gained 0.8%. Financials have added 0.6%. Top 10 Resources Index 0.4% in the green, and the Precious Metals and Mining Index 0.6% higher. On the capital market, the yield on the R186 government bond is at 7.77%. Markets in Europe, they were poised to open higher, supported by signs of potential progress in global trade negotiations, while gold is trading at $3,360 per fine ounce, platinum at $1,366 per ounce, and the price of Brent crude oil $68.66 a barrel.
SAFM Sport with John Gerika.
Good afternoon. Let's start with the women's football. Big result yesterday. Banyana cruising into the women's AFCON quarterfinals with a 4-0 win over Mali last night. Ghana finished second in Group C, Mali earning the best placed third spot. South Africa's next opponents are Senegal on Saturday evening at 9 p.m. Banyana have never lost to their West African opponents. In cricket news, the Proteas take on New Zealand tomorrow in the second T20 of the Triangular Series being held in Zimbabwe. South Africa won the opener against the hosts by 5 wickets yesterday. All-rounder George Linders looking to make his mark in the side as South Africa build up to the next World Cup next year.
You want to win the Tri-Series. That's probably the most important thing. But also it gives us the freedom to play the way we want to play. And I think it kind of helps the younger guys because maybe the older guys know how we want to go about things. I remember when I was younger, started off with the Cobras, you're a little bit scared to express how you want to play and stuff, but it gives you that freedom to go out and just play the way you want to. If you look at a guy like Devil Brevis yesterday, coming in, hitting 41 of 17 balls or whatever, just the way we go about things. And like I say, he let us play the way we want to play.
Another cricket yesterday, the third test in Kingston. Fascinating one last night. Australia all out for 121. The West Indies set a target of 204 to win the test, but they were bowled out for 27. Second lowest score in test history, the worst since 1955. Australia winning by 170.